What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. Dan Kasper Show is on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also online where you can stream it, sportstalk1051.com. Get your Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app, and then, of course, the video stream that's up on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Happy Friday! Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this January 20th already. Flying on by, man. Oh man. What do we got on the game plan here for this morning? It's still a football Friday because we've got the divisional round of the playoffs kicking off tomorrow. We're gonna take a look at that and make some picks. How about you? Who do you got moving on to the conference championships? You're going to go all chalk and go all favorites? Do you think there's an upset that'll happen this weekend? And who do you think it will be? Can it be Jacksonville taking down the Chiefs? Can it be the Giants taking down the Eagles? Those are your first two on Saturday. Then you've got the Bengals taking on the Bills, Cowboys taking on the 49ers to end your divisional weekend. Anybody willing to make some upset picks over there? What you got? What do you got for me for some picks? Okay, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com / Kasper Sports on there. Take a look at that. Take a look at each of these games and all that fun stuff as we get ready for another playoff weekend across the NFL. A lot of teams. I was thinking about this yesterday. A lot of teams kind of not only just letting go of some coordinators and such, but you've got teams letting go of quite a few of some of their assistant coaches. I mean, like the Buccaneers letting go of Byron Leftwich, but a few of their other offensive coaches and some of their defense. I mean, Ravens doing the same thing. Greg Roman's moving on. No big surprise. The Vikings moving on from Ed Donatel at their defensive coordinator position. Yet Green Bay's kind of just sitting there and maybe running it back with their coaching staff. I don't know. Jerry Gray's been for defensive coordinator position, getting requested for interviews for other positions. Bears apparently putting in a request for an undefined defensive coaching position. Don't know what that would be, but yeah, he did get a request for interviewing for the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator position. So I don't know. It sure seems like Green Bay is kind of sticking with it with their current coaching staff. Nathaniel Hackett interviewed with the Jets for their offensive coordinator position. Mike LaFleur sounds like he's going to be the Rams offensive coordinator. Kind of making you, oh, what do you think, Packers fans, when you see other teams, shuffling around their coaching staff, making some moves, making some decisions, moving on from some coaches? I wish Green Bay would have done the same thing. Maybe they will, but it's been a few weeks now, or at least a couple weeks now, and sure seems like they're going to run it back. Going to run it back with the whole group there. So, but we'll talk some football leading up to the divisional round here this weekend. Which game do you think is going to be the best game, most entertaining game? What's your thoughts? So, hit me up. All right. We're gonna talk some hoops. Bucks will be back in action tomorrow, going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Think Giannis will be back for that game. It sure sounds like it. But speaking of Giannis, LeBron and Giannis lead the way in All-Star voting in the third returns, the public returns and such. So we'll see if those two will become captains again for their respective teams. Giannis moved ahead of Kevin Durant for the top overall spot in the Eastern Conference. We'll see if it finishes up that way. But remember, fans account for 50% of the vote to determine the starters. Current NBA players and media panel account for 25% each. The voting will conclude tomorrow. So you've got, or yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, or at least what Saturday? Saturday at midnight? Yeah, no, Saturday 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, there we go. So get your votes in if you want Giannis to be that captain and pick his team again. No big surprise with LeBron over there. It's not even close in the Western Conference with votes. It's LeBron at 6,506,682. Next highest is Steph Curry, 5,151,822. A little bit closer between Giannis and Kevin Durant. Giannis 5,970,196. KD 5,838,182. Kyrie Irving leading the guards 3,968,041 over Donovan Mitchell. Should be flip flop. Donovan Mitchell should be up there. Just my thoughts, but probably I would assume that Giannis is going to be the only Buck, unless I mean I think Drew Holiday needs to get in there and get some love. He's not going to get it from the fan vote unless a bunch of Bucks fans really start to pump in the ballots and such. But Drew Holiday easily deserves to be an All-Star this year. So let's try to get Drew Holiday to that All-Star game, right? Bucks, though, as we said, taking on Cleveland. That game is going to be tomorrow night, tip time around 6:30. Bucks have had a few days off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, so they're still in second. They're tied up now with the Philadelphia 76ers in overall wins and losses and win percentage, but Bucks right now holding on to that second spot in Eastern Conference. Boston picking up a win last night against Golden State to extend their lead in the Eastern Conference for the number one overall spots. Bucks and 76ers both 4.5 back from the Boston Celtics at this point in time. Speaking of hoops, it's officially official. We will not have a Wisconsin Northwestern game tomorrow due to Northwestern having COVID outbreak. So we'll not have a Badger basketball game to kind of talk about and preview. They're going to try to work on a makeup date and such, but keep you posted on that if it ever comes through there. Other stuff on the docket, we got a little inside the training room in under an hour from now with Dr. Crow, Triple Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. I gotta talk to him about this Ryan Jensen thing. I know I mentioned it yesterday, but the dude tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, bone chip, flipped his meniscus, and he didn't even have surgery. He played in the playoff game. How was that? How was that? Man, I mean, like, what would kind of want to know what when Mustard heard that, what was going through his mind and his reaction when he heard that too. So we'll get to that. Then right after that, Brandon Berg will be hopping on his usual time, all the way to the finish line at 9 a.m. this morning. We'll catch up on some of the local and the prep stuff with him. We'll do a Carpet City Flooring Center sports spotlight, local sports spotlight. We've got cream of the crop. We're going to do a little this or that, as we like to call it, on there too. So bunch of fun stuff that we got planned up here, and we'll take your phone calls a little bit later on as well. We'll open up the phone lines here a little bit later on. Get your thoughts on the good old sports world out there. Maybe even hit up continuing our off-season scouting reports for the green and gold for the Packers. I think we might take a look at the outside linebackers today. We did the wide receivers yesterday. I kind of want to flip back and forth between offense and defense. We may look at the outside linebackers. Obviously, Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. Gare, the rookie. Holland was the middle of the season pickup after the Rams let him go. So we'll take a look at the edge rush. We'll look at that. We need a little bit more depth. Rashawn Gary's probably going to get a big contract coming up here soon. Probably going to get that big contract. When you look at Rashawn Gary's, he's coming off that ACL injury, but he's got a fully guaranteed fifth year coming up this year. which is at $10.89 million. So that could be a good sign that maybe he gets that new deal this offseason to lower that 2023 cap hit by a few $1,000,000. Depends on if he'll miss the first few games of the upcoming season. As we've seen with ACL injuries, man, everybody heals at a different rate. It's so hard to project or predict that right now. It's so hard to do that, but nonetheless, I think he's probably going to get a new contract this offseason. That's just my guess. That's my hunch. Could be completely wrong, but for a team that is salary cap stretched, get a guy that's got a 10.9 cap hit, you give him a bigger deal, give him a long-term deal, you can lower that cap hit maybe by a few million or such. So, we'll throw a little bit of, that chat in here this morning as well. So, we got plenty to get to here, so let's just jump into it. It is still a football Friday. We've got divisional round playoffs coming up starting tomorrow with the Jaguars and the Chiefs. Jaguars. Um, Anybody willing to predict the Jags from picking up that win? Think they can upset the Chiefs? Do you see any sort of upset brewing this weekend? Any upset whatsoever? Or are you gonna go all chalk and go with all the home teams, all the higher seeds? All the higher seeds are favored this weekend, which probably isn't, too big of a surprise, but, anybody willing, if you could play with a little bit of, monopoly money, put some, cash or fake dollar bills on an underdog this weekend. What do you got for me? Let's break it all down. So, we'll take that break, and then the opening drive, we'll get things rolling here this morning. Talking a little playoff football. What do you got? Anybody willing to pick an upset this weekend? Can the Cowboys do it? Can the Bengals get a win in Buffalo? What do you got? Who doesn't love cooking up a good burger on the grill? Having a good burger, one of the most satisfying moments in your entire life. Am I right? Now we have the perfect burger to put on the grill and create that more satisfying moment or create more satisfying moments in your life. It's a Dan Good Burger, available only at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. The burger's got bacon, it's got cheese, it's got ranch seasoning all inside the patty to give you that perfect balance of taste and awesomeness in each single bite. So head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, grab yourself a few Dan Good Burgers, and fire up that grill. It's burger day every day, people. All right, head on over there. Just went down the rabbit hole a little bit. Saw that there was a mock draft on CBS Sports, and they caught me with the headline. They caught me with a click because they said a new era begins in Green Bay, and I'm like, "Ooh, are they predicting whoever this is? This Josh Edwards predicting? Are they going to predict a quarterback from Green Bay at number 15? No, wasn't a quarterback. It was a running back, kid from Texas, Robinson. AJ Dillon is entering the final year of his rookie contract. Green Bay could save over $10 million towards the salary cap by moving on from Aaron Jones. He has a salary cap hit in excess of $28 million next season, although unlikely, the Packers are faced with a chance to entirely remodel the running back room while adding a blue chip talent. Yeah, I know Goody in his presser a week from today already, or a week ago today. Was that last Friday? Anyways, he pretty much said that Aaron Jones is going to be back and probably restructure it and all that sort of stuff. But that is definitely going to be one interesting thing to try to figure out or maneuver in the offseason is that running back room. You know, Aaron Jones, I want Aaron Jones back. I mean, I thought he still looks good, but we know with those running backs, as soon as they hit that wall, they hit that wall, right? And how much money are you willing to kind of still push into the future and mortgage that future? Then you got AJ Dillon. I mean, yeah, give him a new contract coming up here too. You know, it's like, oof, glad I'm not general manager anymore. I'll just talk about what they should do. So, anyways, we'll we'll talk a little green and gold as our scouting offseason scouting report continues a little bit later on. But we've got the playoffs. Let's talk about teams that actually made the playoffs and are continuing their run towards a Super Bowl championship. It all begins tomorrow with the Jacksonville Jags taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got the Giants taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, Bengals, Bills on Sunday, Cowboys, 49ers Sunday night. Anybody willing to make any upset picks over there? Anybody willing to anybody confident in that? If you're taking a look at the lines in these games. You're kind of wondering what's everything at right now. All the home teams are favored, which is no big surprise. If you're looking at the spread, Kansas City is favored by 9 in their matchup with Jacksonville. Again, I don't think that's too big of a surprise. You've got the Eagles that are favored by 7.5 over the Giants. Bills favored by 5.5 over the Bengals. And then you've got the 49ers favored by 4. I'm actually a little surprised. Maybe I thought maybe the Bengals and Bills the closest one based off the spread. I mean, that's the only thing I'm a little bit surprised at. In fact, if you go like to the mothership, ESPN.com, and you kind of take a look at their matchup predictor, it actually, according to them, favors the Cowboys 53.2%. But as we said, that line right now favoring the 49ers. So, I mean, you take away 3 points from home and neutral site, they feel like 49ers would only be just a 1-point favorite against the Dallas Cowboys. So, you know, I feel like I hate to say this, go Jags. You know, I'd love the Jags to go on a run here, but I just feel like they might run into a buzzsaw tomorrow. I almost feel like this is gonna be a game where maybe Kansas City kinda starts off a little rusty, a little slow in that, just maybe because they've had that bye week, but ultimately, I just think Kansas City is gonna have their way. I don't think it's gonna be necessarily close in this game, not to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that. I don't know. That's what my gut's telling me right now. I feel like Kansas City is gonna run away with this game. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I would love nothing more than the Jags to go on a little bit of a run here and maybe surprise some people and just have a little fun. I mean, I feel like if the Jags were going on a run, that might be like America's team and such to kind of, if you don't have a favorite team left in the postseason, might be that Jags team that you kind of hit your wagon to here a little bit. But I don't feel good about it. Kansas City at home, you know, Jaguars coming in, young team. I know Doug Peterson's been there before. He's won a Super Bowl, but a lot of youngsters on this Jaguars team that's still learning how to win in the postseason and getting that experience and such. So I'm gonna. I just think it's Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are gonna run away with this one. Giants and Eagles. When we look at this matchup, obviously it's another a divisional, two divisional teams going at it. If you look at the regular season, that final game in the regular season, the Eagles beat the Giants 22-16. That was also a game though too that the Giants didn't play the majority of their guys throughout the whole game, right? Webb got to start at quarterback. Um, if you want to take anything away from that, Barkley, wasn't the leading rusher, didn't get playing time in that. So whether you want to take anything away from that, a few weeks before that, Eagles put up 48 against the Giants, 48-22 victory. Jalen Hurts played in that game too. I know some people have kind of been going out there, well, this is the third game, and Eagles won their 3 or won the first 2 in the regular season. How many times have we seen, in that third matchup, it's the other team that's got the advantage. I know people have been throwing out the whole Giants comparison from like the '07, '08. Remember the Giants when they won that Super Bowl coming into Green Bay, the NFC Championship, and beating Green Bay, but they beat the one-seeded Cowboys before that. Cowboys had beat them both times in regular season, then the Giants come to Dallas and beat them there. People have been throwing out this '07, '08 comparison with this Giants team. Maybe, I mean, we'll see, but I feel like it could be kinda close-ish. The only thing I would question is how much does the bye week. I'll be curious with these teams with the 1 seeds who did get a bye, Kansas City and Philly. Are we gonna see any type of rust from these guys? Are we gonna see any type of slow starts or anything like that? It's that age old, how many times have we talked about it when it comes to the postseason? Too much rest, does it lead to being rusty and all that sort of stuff? But, you know, I feel like a lot of people have kind of backed down a little bit in terms of thinking the Eagles can go all the way to the Super Bowl, maybe even win the Super Bowl. A lot of people loving the 49ers right now in the NFC. I mean, they're probably the hottest team in across the NFL, what, 10, 11 game winning streak that they're currently on right now. But I wouldn't be too I wouldn't just easily diminish and just, completely forget about this, Philadelphia Eagles team. They got playmakers on the offensive side. Jalen Hurts is healthy. They've got, a solid defense over there. Can the Giants do they got another can they pull this out of their sleeve again? Can they go into Philly against a division rival and pick up that dub? Pick up that win. I don't know. I don't know. Then, of course, we know I think, if you were to pick a game that I think a lot of people are really looking forward to, or maybe kinda have their eye on heading into this weekend, is probably Bengals-Bills. You got Dallas and the 49ers too, and that's gonna draw a lot of viewership just 'cause Cowboys, and then you got the 49ers attached to it too. There's a nostalgia feel to it and that sort of thing, but, Bengals, Bills, a lot of emotion heading into this game with Damar Hamlin from, just a few weeks ago, since he coming into to Buffalo with this one. I know, Cincinnati's been, talking about how they're viewed as an underdog, and they don't view it and that sort of thing. But I think this has the potential of being a pretty darn good game. I know everybody was looking forward to that regular season matchup, a few weeks ago, but we know what happened with the Damar Hamlin situation. Sounds like he's doing good. He's got a long road to recovery, but he's been in the facility with Buffalo and such. I don't know if they're gonna have him make an appearance or anything in this game. I don't know, but I feel like this could be a really close kind of back and forth game. I don't know if it'll be like, what we saw last year with the Chiefs and the Bills, where it was like going back and forth there. I mean, that was a hell of a finish to that game. I don't know if it can be like that, but the favorites. A lot of people are picking Buffalo to go Super Bowl. They're one of my Super Bowl picks in this thing, but I almost get the feeling this could just be like a nice grinded out grudge match between these 2 teams, between the Bengals and the Bills. Maybe a type of game where it's a little feeling out at the beginning, kind of a little boxing sort of thing where, just kind of feeling each other out at the beginning, but I think this is perhaps the best game, or at least one of the best games of the weekend, top 2. Probably top 2, but not 2 for my opinion. Just looking at it straight up on paper and such, I think this is the best one of the week. I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, you've got young quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. You got the defending AFC champions, the Bengals. You got the Buffalo Bills, a lot of people picking them to go represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And honestly, whoever wins this game and then let's say the Chiefs beat the Jaguars, that's gonna be a hell of an AFC championship game too. I mean, I'm loving these AFC games. There's some good matchups here. And I think this weekend overall, it's some good, intriguing, good matchups. Maybe besides the Jags and Chiefs one. I mean, if it was Chargers Chiefs, that would have been something there, but regardless. But I think this Bengals and Bills one, that's maybe the cream of the crop, if you will, for my viewing habits for this weekend. Then you got the 49ers, Cowboys, and little throwback, a little shout out to the '90s there. San Francisco beating the Cowboys last year in the postseason in Dallas, and well, we know what happened after that. 49ers coming into Green Bay, and yeah, we don't need to revisit that, right? But does Brock Purdy have another one in him? Can Brock Purdy go there or go up against the Dallas Cowboys, pick up another win, and just keep adding to the legacy that is of Brock Purdy and that Dallas defense maybe do some things to confuse the youngster. This is I had Dallas as a Super Bowl team. I thought Dallas and the 49ers were gonna face each other in the NFC Championship, but it's a round earlier here. But with that San Francisco defense, and they've got some skill position players on that offense. Christian McCaffrey, he looks healthy, he looks rejuvenated. You got Deebo Samuel over there, Brandon Ayuk is over there. He's actually their leader in receiving yards for the 49ers this year. I mean, they've got some skill players. Micah Parsons going up, perhaps against Trent Williams, left tackle for the 49ers. That's gonna be a hell of a matchup. And Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, going up against his former offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Shanahan, play caller, head coach of the 49ers, who can come up with a better game plan, who can call the better game. Do you think this game will be decided by the Cowboys defense going up against the 49ers offense? Or do you think it'll be the Cowboys offense? Maybe the unpredictability of a Dak Prescott going up against this pretty darn solid unit of the San Francisco 49ers? Can this Cowboys offensive line slow down perhaps the defensive player of the year, Mr. Bosa? There's a lot of star power in this game, or I should say maybe name power in this game. Got maybe the top two that'll finish in defensive player of the year voting with Parsons and Bosa. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Tony Pollard, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott. I think this could be a good game too. I do. The only thing that Cowboys right now this year they're 12-5, but four of their five losses all coming on the road, and the 49ers this year 8-1 at home. 8-1 at home. Their only loss. What was their only loss? Their only loss at home this year was. I'm trying to bring it up. Oh yeah, the Chiefs. Okay, well they got blown out by the Chiefs in that one, 44-23. So anybody willing to pick an upset with all those? Anybody willing? Am I gonna switch my Super Bowl pick? I had Cowboys and Bills last week, but changed it up here a little bit. I'm still gonna roll with that. I'll tell you, after 8, when we make our pick. Yeah, I already gave one away. I think the Chiefs are gonna beat beat the Jags, but I don't think that should be too much of a shocker over there. But what do you got for your picks? You can hit me up with a tweet, Facebook, or hit me up with a text as well on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll finish up the first hour, continuing our kind of off-season look with the green and gold. I want to take a look at the edge rushers here. Do you believe that Green Bay has enough depth at edge rusher? We saw Kingsley Enagbare, rookie, get extended playing time this year because of the Rashawn Gary injury. I would. My guess is going to get a bigger contract this year. Preston Smith signed that new deal last year. I imagine he's still going to be on the team. I think he's going to be on based off how his contract is currently structured right now. I feel like he's going to be on the team for at least through the 2024 season. But do you want to see Green Bay maybe add a little bit more depth? We've seen last couple of years now that they like to run through a rotation with their edge rushers, try to keep guys fresh. They need a little bit more. Do you want to see like maybe a Hollins coming back or anything like that? Or do you want to see a Quay Walker maybe kind of? I know there was some talk about him maybe playing a little bit more off the ball and becoming a little edge rusher type of thing. What do you think? Maybe we'll hit that up coming up here in just a little bit too. So, but we got to take that quick break, and then coming up, we'll finish up the first hour. And we got a little inside the train room past 7 o'clock. Back to the show. become a Sports Talk Insider and receive exclusive free content. All you got to do is head to sportstalk1051.com and click on that subscribe tab that's up there. All right. So what do you got? What do you want? Like, what's in it for me? What do we do? Why do I got to do that? Sign up for the Green and Gold Chalk Talk newsletter. We're going to start doing some weekly email trivia, and we're going to do like a little bit of a leaderboard up there for some prizes and some sweet swag and all that good stuff. So we'll put a leaderboard up there too. That way, let's think a little like Stump the Schwab. Remember that I had this computer game as a kid. I don't know if anybody else did. It was like you don't know jack about sports, something like that. So like some bragging rights and that sort of thing. So we're gonna start doing that here very soon. But if you want to get those emails, we'll have a couple like trivia questions in there. And I know you can cheat and all that sort of stuff, but try not to. Try your best not to. I'm gonna try to come up with some questions maybe where you can't cheat. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. But you'll have the leaderboard up there, and we can do some bragging rights and that sort of stuff, and kind of win some prizes and all that fun stuff. And then we got a little thing called tailgate talks that we're gonna be doing, kind of like doing some get-togethers, just hanging out, having some cold ones, having some food, and just shooting the what and talking some sports. So if you want to be a part of that, well, that's through the subscribe tab over there too. So, and a bunch of more stuff that's we got coming down the pipeline. All right, including maybe a little March Madness bracket. Got that to start thinking about here. Less than 2 months away. That week, once we get into the middle of March, was it March 14th is the first play-in games? You got the 14th and the 15th. Then the 16th is the Thursday, the normal Thursday, we'll call it. You open that week up, and then the following week, it's Sweet 16, Elite 8. And then you get to March 30th, opening day for baseball. Final Four 2 days after that. Then the national championship the following Monday, and then the Masters. You got a hell of a week right there. That's going to be loaded with a bunch of stuff over there. So we're going to do something for opening day. Make sure you're tuning in. And well, if you want to be the first to know about opening day, you got to become a sports insider. So got working on some plans for opening day. So make sure you subscribe. Again, at sportstalk1051.com and click on that subscribe tab. All right, really quick, because I don't think there's a whole lot to really deep dive into this, but kind of with our off-season scouting sort of thing, with the Packers taking a look at different position groups and that sort of thing. We've hit up quarterbacks and wide receivers and tight ends and safeties and this, that, and the other. But looking at the edge rushers here, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, your two starters. We don't know if Rashawn Gary's going to be active or ready to go, I should say, is the best way when the season opens up, for 2023. We don't know. Everybody heals differently from ACL injuries. We know this, right? We've seen it. Packers have experienced this, for crying out loud. But nonetheless, he's probably, my guess is that he's going to get a contract, I think, this offseason. I think he's going to get one. That's going to lower that $10.9 million cap hit. I think it's going to happen. Preston Smith, as I said before the break, I think based off his contract structure, he's going to be around for at least a couple more years. Then if Green Bay wants to get out of that contract with a little bit lower of a dead cap hit, then they can do that at that point in time. But after that, you've got Kingsley Enagbare, the rookie who got some extended playing time because of the injury to Rashawn Gary, which I think obviously really helped with his development and getting that experience this year. He showed, I thought, some flashes, some bright spots this year. If you were kind of wondering what his Pro Football Focus overall grade, it was a 61.4. Yeah, okay. Finishing the season with 3 sacks. So, yeah, okay. Obviously, not like all worldly or anything like that, but he's going to be part of the depth option over there. You've got Justin Hollins that was picked up after the Rams moved on from him. Showed some flashes, picked up a couple of sacks over there too. Actually, he finished the season with 4 overall. But could be a nice, maybe a little bit of a depth person there. But how much do you think Green Bay needs to address the edge rusher position this offseason? I think maybe the little bit of a fork in the road with this thing will be because of Rashawn Gary recovering from that ACL injury. So does Green Bay maybe have to move up in the priority list of maybe looking at a veteran free agent that won't cost a whole lot, or maybe looking in the upcoming draft about drafting another edge rusher fairly high because of, well, we don't know when Sean Gary will be ready to go with that ACL injury, and maybe there will be a little bit of rust when he first comes back from that ACL injury. And remember too, Green Bay, they went out and signed Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, and then what do? They drafted Rashawn Gary. So it's not like, just because they've got a couple of starters there, they haven't shied away from bringing in another edge rusher. So I honestly feel like Green Bay is going to look at bringing in another edge rusher, maybe within the first couple of rounds, first 2 days of the NFL draft. Maybe it's another veteran that kind of, spot time here, part of the rotation. We know Green Bay likes to rotate a lot of their edge rushers in to try to keep them fresh and such. So I honestly feel like that edge rusher for Green Bay, they're going to be looking for a little bit more depth there, whether that is, first 2 days of the draft, or maybe a veteran coming in for a 1-year type of deal for a couple $1 million or something like that. But I do think that they need to add that. I do think that, with the Rashawn Gary thing, maybe protect yourself a little bit more, just because we don't know when he's going to be ready. But I don't think there's ever a problem. It's not a problem to have depth at both your defensive line and at your edge rushers. If you got adequate depth there where you feel good about having that rotation in, and maybe not having such a deep, discrepancy between talent between your top two and then like your third guy or something like that. If you don't have that wide gap, it's not a bad thing. So I wouldn't be opposed for Green Bay adding a little bit more depth to that edge rushing spot. And maybe you can get a little creative with your pass rush, or maybe you can get a little creative with different packages on there. I love when Zadarius was with Green Bay. I love the fact when they would put Rashawn and Preston and Zadarius on the field together, and Zadarius blitzing up the middle and such. So, but anyways, we got Morgan for the last couple minutes here.
Hey, you're talking about teams and all that. So I figured I would switch it.
Sports.
We're talking sports, but teams, team building, who's going to be in, who's going to be out. So we're taking it away from the courts, away from the fields, away from the diamonds. We're going to talk about groups or teams of animals. Every once in a while, I like to pick up okay, what's something new I can learn, right? Because, after you're adulting for a while, you get kind of into the ho-hums. So I was like, I can figure out what groups of wild animals are called, because you have like a flock of geese or whatever,
right.
But there are a lot of different groups of animals, pride of lions and all that. Do you know these? You're a hunter, animals kind of. Are you into like what the proper technical terms of groups of animals are?
Like the genus, species, or whatever they're called?
Well, for example, a group of giraffes, do you know what they're called?
Giraffes.
A tower of
tower?
A tower
like
of
the
giraffes.
Group. Okay.
Yeah, like when we'll call it a team,
like a wolf pack.
Yeah, like a team of animals, a pack of wolves. Crows, a lot of people know that one. Murder, a murder of crow.
I don't know that.
Then a pride of lions. That's pretty popular. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you about some of these, and you're gonna, if you don't know, you can guess. You can do a little, Casper, throw it out there.
Then I got a really quick thing. I got to tell you what happened yesterday.
What?
Speaking of animals,
tell me.
Virtual learning.
Yeah.
So
Hutsy was home snow day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one, they were all introduced, like showing different animals and pets.
Yeah.
One of his friends, pet snake, showed it up on the camera.
A real snake?
I was not happy.
No, he was handling it.
Yes.
This kid.
Yes.
He's what, 5 maybe?
Yes. Showed it right up to the camera. I'm like, you're not going over there.
Did you take the screen and smash it? Say,
I
I
was
don't want
like,
you hanging
nope.
out with people like
Yep.
this.
No. Whoa.
Oh, Dad did not like that.
Nope.
Did the snake have a name?
I can't remember it.
What if you try to like make it personal, like a pet?
Nope.
No, still not on board.
Nope. And credit to the teacher. She's like, oh, that's so cute. So, nope.
No go?
Nope.
All right, well, we don't have snakes on here, but we do have skunks. What do you call a group of skunks that congregate together? These aren't jokes. This is for real.
Pepe Le Pews.
Odor.
Odor.
It is an odor of
Okay.
skunks. Although weasels, gang of weasels,
I have no idea.
a harem.
Okay, what?
See, yeah, these are
Yeah.
like fun little facts to
Yeah.
know. So if you're ever on the other side of a Jeopardy buzzer, just letting you know. At zebra, group of zebra together out on the African plain, you'll say, wow, that's a
I have no idea.
not a herd,
No.
not a pack,
I don't. I have no idea.
a dazzle.
What's the one with like? Is it Hudson actually schooled me in this one? Is there like a goat one?
A goat.
Yeah.
I don't have goats on the list, but I can tell you a hippopotamus,
Okay.
a bloat, rhymes
Bloats.
with goat,
Okay.
a bloat of hippopotamus.
There was one that I can't remember what he said.
They're just kind of interesting. It's one of those like weird off, kind of
Yeah.
useless knowledge, but you never know. It might not be useless.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I say we have a
Last one.
crash of something, what would it be?
Cars.
Rhinoceros.
Okay. I have no idea.
The roads are clear now. There
Yeah,
shouldn't
that's
be a
true.
crash of cars.
Thanks, Marge.
Hey, anytime, Casper.
Second hour kicking off on this TGIF. Dan Kasper Show is on the air. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. Coming up, we're going to catch up with our good buddy, Mr. Brandon Berg. Catch up on some of the local stuff out there. We get the Carpet City Flooring Center local sports spotlight, cream of the crop. Get back some football talk. We're going to throw in some hoops talk with the Bucks back in action tomorrow, going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We've got some playoff picks, all that good stuff. But we kick off this hour like we usually do every Friday with a little inside the training room with Dr. Crow. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Attaboy. Hey, so I know I kind of texted you about this yesterday. I was going to ask you this. So Ryan Jensen, the center for the Buccaneers, he missed all season besides, he got activated to play in the playoff game against the Cowboys. And if we rewind it before the season started, he had a knee injury, and apparently what he did was he tore his MCL, his ACL, and his PCL, and he flipped his meniscus. I'm reading his quote here. He said he also had a fracture and another little bone chip thing. It was a major injury, and I was fortunate that I could be the way the injury happened, that I didn't have to have surgery. That's a lot of tears and broken stuff on there and a flipped meniscus. I mean, my first question to you is, when you hear that and he didn't have surgery, what's going through your mind when you hear that?
Yeah, that was a head scratcher. So I went back and watched. It was a little interview he had after the game, and so I watched the video clip of that, and that's exactly what he said. So I think some of it's going to be apparent that some of those ligament injuries were not full thickness. So we touched on this in the past. When you injure a ligament, there's, like all injuries, there's a kind of a spectrum of severity. And so if you have a grade 3 complete rupture, that's one thing. You have grade 1 or grade 2s, there's still some fibers that are intact, and there's some potential to heal, especially in the MCL and PCL. My ACL is a little bit different. So when he says I had, what we call those multi-ligament knee injuries, so ACL, PCL, MCL, things like that, if they were complete ruptures, his knee would be grossly unstable. Like I'm saying, he wouldn't be able to walk. So there's no way that he had grade 3s for all three of those. So my assumption is it was a high grade MCL and probably a moderate grade ACL, PCL, but the ability for those to heal in and do okay. What had me scratching my head a little bit more was the flip meniscus comment. So when we talk about flip meniscus, that's generally layman's term for what's called a bucket handle meniscus tear. And those universally need surgery. So I don't know if there was something lost in translation or what, but it's kind of like, if you have a broken bone, you have to cast it or fix it or do something, right? You can't just do nothing. Same idea with the bucket handle meniscus. You got to do something. So I wonder if it was maybe a peripheral tear that was like going to become a bucket handle, never did. And so sometimes those can heal on their own, but once it flips, it's out of place. You can't just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's definitely, when you hear him, it's a laundry list of injuries. Now, I will say this, with those ligament injuries and meniscus tear, it is not uncommon to have really severe bone bruises, which really you kind of have like a quote microfracture injury to the bone, where it's like an impact injury. So that spectrum of bone bruise to these fractures, we see those commonly. So that constellation of injuries is not uncommon. But for him to get back, even if it is all those things as quote just partial injuries, that's still an impressive injury to the knee. And so for him to get back and play is an impressive feat.
Yeah, and what I was going to ask you about the fracture part of it, and you kind of highlighted there. And I don't know if you remember a few years ago when, like, Aaron Rodgers, they said he fractured his knee or something. It was that Monday night game against the Bears, and he made that comeback or whatever. But they said, like, he broke a bone around there. I don't know if that was maybe something similar when somebody says they
exactly.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly. So I actually talked to Bob Anderson about that injury.
Oh, really? Nice.
And so yeah, so they thought he had a full plateau fracture when they were running out in the field. He told me, and he's like, no, we got out there and it was a ligament injury. But if you think about the knee as a hinge, if it bends the way it's not supposed to, on one side you have distraction, one side you have compression. So for him, the inner part of the knee, the MCL, that opens up. What does that mean? The outer part impacts itself. So you end up getting kind of a significant bone bruise. But you can absolutely see, and I've seen it on athletes on the field, where it goes beyond just a bone bruise and you actually have a displaced fracture. So, I mean, some common ones, J.J. Watt did. J.J. Watt had a plateau fracture. He basically took a hit and the knee bent, opens up on one side, compresses on the other. And eventually you can press it hard enough and bone's only so strong and pop, there it goes.
Man, yikes. Ooh, that just sounds painful. Oh boy.
It would be.
Yeah. So okay, so he doesn't have surgery to repair any of that stuff. And this might be a stupid question, but would there be any kind of concern, like long term, like would there be a lot of scar tissue buildup in that thing? I mean, is there any concern about not having any surgery to fix any of that?
Yeah, it just depends on the severity. So that's a great question. I think, if you look at partial injury, a partial ligament injury, let's say, we often come back and assess the knee down the road. And you can have an initial plan of non-operative treatment where you say, look, we're going to brace, we're going to rehab, let's see how it goes. And sometimes people do awesome, and sometimes they have persistent instability. So when a ligament heals in, it heals in with scar. So that scar tissue is not as good as the native ligament. And so like if people have a partial AC or MCL, you can always come back and examine the knee and say, oh, that was the injured knee, because it has a little bit of give to it. So it's a bit of semantics, but we call that laxity. So when you examine a knee and it's got a little bit of play, that's laxity. Well, when patients come in complaining of not feeling stable, that's instability. And those are different things. Now, obviously there's a correlation there, but it's not a light switch. So people can have a little bit of play in their knee and can do fine, and some people can't. And so that's kind of the art of doing, sports medicine, is you try to assess a knee and say, look, do I think this is going to end up getting back to a functional status? Yes or no? And everyone's demands are different, right? So we have a little old lady that falls and twists her knee. She's not going to do the same things that someone going back to college football or professional football. So you have to kind of judge it based on what the person's going to be doing and the laxity that they have on examination.
He's Dr. Crow inside the training room. Dr. Crow from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. I could be completely wrong on this. Is PCL really tear at all? Is that like the hardest one to tear in your knee?
I wouldn't say hardest, but I'd say it's probably the least common injury. I mean, the MCL is probably the most. We see a lot of MCLs. The ACL is probably second, and then the LCL, which is actually we collectively call the posterolateral corner, is probably so it's probably the least common. The PCL is a big, robust ligament. It generally is a direct blow to the front of the knee. So people often they'll fall on the knee and strike the front of it, or we call it a dashboard injury, where they're in a car accident, the knee is driven forward and the tibia gets driven backwards. Or it can be with a real severe rotational injury. So, I mean, isolated PCL injuries are not super common, but Lamar Jackson's dealing with one right now.
Yeah.
So we definitely see them, no doubt about it. But the PCL is technically speaking an extra-articular ligament. It has a synovial covering, and so it does have the ability to heal. So that's why you'll sometimes see guys like Lamar, for example, taking weeks and months off trying to recover from it.
I was going to ask you about Lamar Jackson, so that's a good segue into this. You mentioned that knee injury. Do you think because of his style of play, he's a running quarterback, that's what kind of like maybe made him miss more time or an extended period of time? Because we were all kind of waiting, is he going to come back? Is he going to come back? And I know some players were saying, dude, you got to be out there, go out there and play on it. And others are saying, I think it was Robert Griffin the third saying, don't play. Michael Vick said, go play. But do you think was it his style of play that maybe factored into the decision whether he could play or not?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I think you basically, when we're assessing as an athlete ready to go back on the field, you basically say, hey, let's have some trial runs. Let's see what you can do. And if you're a pocket passer like Tom Brady, and you go out there, he's going to sit in the pocket and throw the ball. He's not going to be running around. Lamar Jackson's going to say, hey, I'm going to run, cut, pivot, and see what my knee's able to do. So no question, the demands he's going to put in his knee are different than other players. And the PCL is a big injury. So, it's kind of always funny to me that there's other athletes trying to tell someone else they should go back out in the field. Yeah. It just always strikes me as funny. Every injury is different. Every person's different. And so, you have to be smart about it because, RG3, I saw his tweets about that as well. And I think he had that picture, remember, where he had that cut and his knee went from he had a partial injury. He went to a complete, right? Yep. So they ended up having that big reconstructive surgery with Jimmy Andrews down in Birmingham. Yes, partial injuries have the ability to go to full. So if you're not fully recovered, you shouldn't be out there. And so, but at the end of the day, these guys are professional athletes. This is their career. So there are guys who are going to go back out there when they're not 100%. And so you always have to kind of work with them and talk about like, what is your goals? Do you think that you're able to do what you need to do to be out there and not only be safe, but actually contribute? And let's be honest. Sometimes it's the wrong decision, right? I mean, if RG3 could go back in time, I'm sure he would not go back out there, and then he maybe would able to rehab and never have that injury and have a different career. We just don't know. But I think for people to criticize Lamar for not playing when he's got a significant ligament injury to his knee, it's like, that's just foolish. I mean, these guys have both the short and long term to think about. And if you think he doesn't care about his team and being out there, you're crazy. So he's doing it for both, again, the team now and the team in the future. So it's just always funny to me how people sit there and they're trying to counsel someone how to recover from an injury. It's crazy.
Do you think that's a big factor in too? Because, we talk about maybe mostly like for concussions and that, self-reporting and all that, but it's that pressure from other people, and maybe from other people in their own business, in the business of sports, kind of like saying, no, go out there and rub some dirt on it and play it. I mean, we talk about these guys or athletes going out there and playing hurt, but do you think that's a big factor into it too? Like, we just saw a bunch of former NFL players and other athletes, and even some of his teammates saying, go out there and play, man. And then that's maybe part of the issue with this whole thing.
Well, there's quote unquote peer pressure. I mean, there's pressure within the locker room. There's pressure. Social media is a whole new beast, as we all know. And I think that certainly exacerbates that problem. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you look at these guys, and I mean, they're not immune to that. I mean, they're human beings at the end of the day, and I'm sure they want to get out there. They want to get out there for themselves. They want to get out there for their teammates. They want to get out there for their fans. But he goes out there and blows his knee completely and has to have reconstructive surgery and misses next year. That's not helping himself. And Lamar's on a contract here. We all know that. And so for him, if he goes out and severely injures his knee, that is probably a little bit more substantial issue for him than other. And so it is a business. And so he has to at least have that in his mind as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you touched on the concussion thing. I do think that that's been one real positive over the last couple of years. And I think people are much more cognizant of that. This year, obviously, it's been an exclamation point with the Tua thing. I think seeing him down in the field when he had that kind of posturing, I think that really was an eye opener for some people to be like, okay, sometimes head injuries are silent, sometimes they're not. And I think hopefully that sheds some light on the severity of what those can actually mean. And hopefully that understand that it's a serious injury. And so whether you're talking about a concussion, a sprained ankle, a PCL, I don't care what. I mean, you can't just always go back out on the field. It's not always safe. It's not always in your best interest or the team's best interest, frankly.
Yeah, you mentioned Tua, and that was my last question here too. See, we got a thing going on right now that where I'm going to bring up here. I think it was his the Dolphins GM mentioned after their postseason press conference that they don't have any long-term concern about Tua and his concussions, and he even made a comment like he's not more susceptible to concussions than the next person. Would you agree with that assessment from the Dolphins general manager?
There's some truth in. I mean, concussions are certainly still nebulous, and I mean, I think we do see athletes that do tend to get a run of them. But that being said, once you clear them, I mean, it's not like you're necessarily super susceptible in the short term. Yes, I mean, your brain is as it's recovering, it's like a knee injury, right? It is a real injury. So you're more likely to injure your knee again when you're in that recovery phase. But once you get out of it, people often do get through it. So there are some people that only have one or two concussions. I mean, what made it scary is he had the run of them, and then of course the on the field posturing that he did. That was kind of a scary sight for everyone on national media. So I mean, if I was a Dolphins fan, would I be worried about him long term? Not necessarily. But we all know. I mean, it was like his first play back. After that, he's out there running, dropping his head to dive in. It's like, man, he plays with reckless abandon. So that style of play is going to result in more head impacts, and those are going to put you at increased risk. So yes and no. I think intrinsically, is he more likely? Probably not. His style of play put him at more risk? Absolutely. So it's a yes, no.
Oh, man, good. I love chatting with you every Friday, buddy. Austin, Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Thank you so much for breaking everything down for us here this morning. Have a good weekend, buddy, and we'll chat again soon, okay?
Yep, take it easy.
You got it. There you go. There's Dr. Crow inside the training room. Love our Friday chats with Dr. Crow there. So I'll tell you what, let's take a really quick break, and then we've got Brandon Berg in studio here. We'll do some updates on some local stuff, and then make our playoff picks coming up just past 8 o'clock. We've got some hoops chat. as well to talk a little bit about. And I want to ask Brandon a couple questions about the Brewers from their hot stove and cold brews event and a bunch of other stuff. Going to be a little Q&A with Brandon. So we'll take that quick break and be back after these few words. All right, we're already approaching the bottom of the hour here. We got Mr. Berg in studio. Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Getting ready for spring training with the Brewers hat. You've moved on now. Getting ready for
I
baseball.
guess. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a hat I have in my car. So
Yeah. Nice. So, I it's less than a month, I think, or
I think
around a month.
it's around the month, yeah,
pitches and
because usually
catches.
it's somewhere around like Valentine's Day.
Yeah, because ESPN, we already kind of talked about it. They have their power rankings
Oh,
already
boy.
for baseball. I was a little surprised. They got the Brewers at 13.
So right on the fringes of the postseason,
Yeah.
which
St. Louis was at 11. That was the highest NL Central team.
Yeah.
Twins were at 14. So I was like, I thought maybe a little bit lower just because of the lack of moves and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But they're so I don't know if you read their write up on
I think
it a little bit.
I think I did at some point, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it sure seems like their wild card pick is the I just blanked on his name, the new right fielder that they acquired from Seattle.
Oh, wait, just Winker.
Yeah, they were talking about him quite a bit, so they almost felt like that he's kind of a wild card. Like if he gets back to what he was doing with the Cardinals, that could be a big time move. Or Reds, yes,
Yeah.
excuse me, yeah.
And I think that's very kind of an important thing to see just how he's coming back. And I think at the aforementioned event, a few days ago, I think Matt Arnold mentioned that Jesse Winker is working out at their spring training complex, and he looks really good. Like he's all the things you want to hear at this point.
Yeah.
But because prior to last year, you look at Jesse Winker's numbers, and they're really good.
Yeah.
Like he was an all-star 2 years ago. Like he can hit the ball. But last year going to Seattle was hurt. There's kind of a couple things that maybe not going to the most hitter-friendly park. Maybe a few things that just didn't work in his favor, and it just it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brewers were able to bring him in, and I think he's going to be, I think some people are probably looking at him as a replacement for Hunter Renfroe, but I think he's really more of a replacement for Andrew McCutchen because I think he's going to probably get the lion's share of the designated hitter duty. I mean, I don't see him and Christian Yelich playing in the outfield together too much, just because defensively that's probably not the ideal setup. But I think you're going to see a scenario where both those guys are kind of getting some time in left field, and maybe there's some time that Winker plays in right field as well, but yeah, he's definitely going to be a wild card because when he's right, he is a legitimate middle of the order bat. And when you look at what he's done in his career, when he's been at his best, it's better than anybody in the they're probably going to put in the lineup this year. As long as you're not counting for the first 2 years of Yelich from Milwaukee.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was thinking about this yesterday, and this might be a dumb question, but it's like. You mentioned, Seattle, not a hitter-friendly ballpark. So why do these hitters want to go to these places then? Is it just money?
Probably, but also, Seattle's a playoff team last year.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's, other factors in play, lifestyle of the town, that kind of stuff. Maybe, some guys on the team. Like,
right.
Just because you live or you play in a hitter-friendly park doesn't mean you can't succeed. It just means it's tougher. I mean, there's definitely been great hitters in Seattle over the years,
right?
Since they moved to Safeco, but sometimes it's easier when you gotta, when you're
go to Colorado and boost the numbers up. There a little
or
bit.
when you're, Jesse Winker started at Great American Ballpark, which is as hitter-friendly ballpark as there is.
Yeah. Yep. You mentioned defense with the outfielders too. We talk about the banning of the shift with the infield and maybe the importance of defense there, but does that also trickle down to the outfield too? Because, when you think of the shift, I'm thinking of that guy that goes over to the second base but touches the grass over there too.
Yeah, or the guy that's in short right center, playing rover, as we might have called him in the old softball days.
Yeah, so, I mean, is there that trickle-down effect too where the importance of the outfield defense kind of comes into play this year too?
I think so, just because, you're not going to have that to fall back on in certain situations. And just in general, I think it's going to lend to leaning more towards kind of athletic fielders. The days of the Brewers throwing on a lineup with Travis Shaw at second base probably aren't too viable anymore, just because they were able to shift.
Right.
So and they really hadn't done too much of that in recent years anyway. But I think you're going to see more of an emphasis on people that can play a solid defense.
Right. Speaking of that defense and then the infield, Willie Adames, he said at the Hot Stoves and Cold Brews event that the Brewers and him haven't had any discussions about a long-term contract over there. Now, he does have the team controls him next year too. Another
2 years.
2 years over there too. But the question I was kind of throwing out there yesterday, and I'll ask you, how much of a priority do you think it should be for the Brewers to lock up Willie Adames?
I mean, I would say pretty high priority as long as you're kind of in the same ballpark financially. And that's going to be the big question, because I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think the Brewers want to keep Willie Adames. They just know that with the way the shortstop market has kind of, exploded, I guess, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, the last few years. That if they want to, he's going to be compensated very well for his talents.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be Carlos Correa or Trey Turner money, but I think you can make a good case that since he's got to Milwaukee, he's in that kind of next tier or so of player with what he's done offensively, and also he's, I think, kind of overlooked a little bit that he's a really good defender too, and he plays every day.
Right.
So, and I'm not surprised, and that's the kind of thing that all it takes is one meeting or two for it to kind of pick up. But I mean, I wasn't surprised at that point. It is, I know for a lot of Brewers fans, a little, discouraging to hear that, but it can change. Not saying it will, but it can.
If let's say they do get something done with Willie Adames, that's 2 big contracts with offensive players over there. And I know they've got Ashby and Peralta, their younger guys, under contract for a cheaper deal. But I mean, would there be a concern? Because we know there's no salary cap in baseball, but the Brewers have a salary cap themselves. They have a budget. So, I mean, if you invest quite a bit of money in 2 offensive players, that's really putting a lot of pressure on your young pitchers then to perform, isn't it?
It is. It is. And that's, I think, maybe the reason for a little bit of hesitancy. And that's also an issue that they're going to face when it comes to possibly extending Corbin Burnes or Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah.
Is, you don't have a certain amount of money to throw around, but realistically, the Brewers probably have a certain amount of money to throw around for one reason or another. So,
right.
And what's happened the last few years with Christian Yelich, that's that wouldn't be so much of an issue if he was producing at his 2018, 2019 levels.
Right.
But that's not happening. So you're leaning on everybody else a little bit more.
Yeah, and I know I mentioned it yesterday, but Yelich working on a new swing. No toe tap.
No toe tap and hit the ball in the air. I mean, that's.
Of all the people that, and I know Rowdy Tellez has kind of been mentioned with this, but with the banning of the shift, do you think Yelich is going to be one of those that will benefit big time with it?
I don't know. I've seen. I mean, he hits the ball on the ground a lot. So I mean, that's just something in general. Like, I'm sure he's aware of it, that needs to try to change, because I mean, if everybody else is, you can't tell me that a hitter, in specifically like the management around a hitter doesn't know these things. Like, it doesn't mean it's easy to do, but the fact of the matter is, you got to hit the ball in the air more. Like,
right.
How many times do we see hard hit ball by Yelich, but it's a shortstop or it's a second baseman. Like, that's just. So I don't know. I don't know if it would be as much for Yelich. I know some people have kind of looked into that, and you mentioned Rowdy Tellez. I think Tyrone Taylor was another one that seemed like really was hurt by team shifting on him. So, maybe it'll help him, but I don't think it's suddenly going to turn him into a 290 hitter.
Right. Is Keston Hiura just kind of lost in the shuffle at this point?
I think so. He was one of, everybody but Corbin Burnes agreed to, a deal to avoid arbitration, but
right.
He is kind of stuck in no man's land, because you look at the current state of the roster, and Keston Hiura is a first baseman. He's a DH, and I mean, you can kind of say he's a second baseman, but if he was a second baseman, he'd still be a second baseman. So, but you look at those spots, and there's certainly other players that can kind of fill those roles as well. It just feels like what he can do is kind of redundant on this team. He's not necessarily providing something that they're not going to get from somebody else. So I think he's someone to keep an eye on as you head closer to spring training, and in spring training, because he's probably playing for a job, but it just might not be on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see another team, a team like an Oakland or a Washington, that has the room to let him play every day and see if he can kind of recapture the magic, so to speak, of 2019. That the Brewers are just not in that spot. It'd be a little bit different if they were thinking they were going to be 4th place in the division,
right? But
they're not. I mean, they're even with these moves, they're going to go into spring training thinking they can contend for a playoff spot and maybe the division if some things break right.
Yeah. What do you think of the signing of Brian Anderson, not the TV announcer, but the new infielder for the Brew Crew?
That's fine. I mean, he was somebody that, his career has been interesting, because the first 3 or 4 years of his career, I mean, it really looked like he was going to be a something, but then he's battled injuries the last few years, and his numbers have taken a dip. But he's somebody that there's versatility there. He mentioned he can play corner infield, he can play corner outfield too, which is a help, I think, for them as well. But he's interesting because he has reverse splits. He hits righties better than lefties. Not like to the level of Castanheira, but he hits righties better, which as a right-handed batter you wouldn't think is the case.
Right.
But he's someone that given the money they're paying him, I'm assuming the expectation is he's going to be on that team. And I think there had been some talk that he may be the guy at third base, which will move Luis Urias to second, which is fine for me. I mean, Luis Urias is going to be in the lineup, but I think that.
So that mean like Bryce Terang would be a bench guy then, like a.
I could see him starting the year AAA.
Okay.
I mean, just because.
You want him to get bats, right?
And that's it. Like it's always when you have a younger player, especially when you have expectations for, you don't see very many younger players that are in those kind of bench, utility player roles because you're right. You want to get bats when you're that age. You just want someone to keep getting at bats. So I could see him starting at AAA, not just because of those other more experienced guys they have, but let's face it, it would behoove the Brewers to keep Bryce Terang down in the minors for a certain period of time, as far as control goes.
Right.
On the other end of things.
Because I was going to ask you then too.
And that's
Willie Adames, does that affect because they got a Bryce Terang?
Yeah.
And, extension.
If let's say Bryce Terang is down at AAA the first month and then comes up, plays second base, and just kills it there. And I guess maybe that's something you can consider because he is a shortstop by trade. He's a good defender, but I think that they're going to take their time with him for many reasons. Some of them baseball related, and some of them financial related, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Right. Yeah. So, kind of some interest. I don't see. I mean, there's like no big name free agents left out there.
Not really. I mean, at this point, I think they're pretty much done, at least in free agency. I mean, trade, you never know. With the Wade Miley signing, it's still possible that either Eric Lauer or Adrian Hauser gets moved for something.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, really, I think the only other spot maybe you could see them go after would be another bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Because that, there's talent in that bullpen. It's just unproven. Outside of Devin Williams, I mean, right now, your top two setup guys are probably Peter Strzelecki and Hobie Milner, who both pitched really well last year, but, that was the first year they did that.
Right.
So it's.
And you got some like starter bullpen mixture in there too.
There's some they're not going to have a shortage of possibilities there. It's just that there's not a proven possibilities like you would look at a year ago when you knew pretty specifically it was going to be Boxberger in the 7th, Williams in the 8th, and Hader in the 9th.
Right. Do you feel like maybe at the beginning part of the season too, if it's kind of stays this way, that there's going to be a lot of feeling out from Craig Counsell, like throwing different guys out there? And
I think so. I think right now all he really knows is that Devin Hill Williams is a closer.
Yeah.
And there's some other guys that. It's going to kind of see who rises to the opportunity. And that's what, Strzelecki and Milner did last year. I mean, they, Milner had pitched with the team before. Strzelecki, I believe, came from independent ball and that was in the minors and just, made the most of it. You see that out of relief pitchers a lot where guys will, they take kind of unique paths and eventually it just clicks.
Yeah. I think that's what Counsell kind of said the other day too at that event, talking about the bullpen and the younger arms in there too, just giving them the opportunities. And sometimes that's how you find out who's ready for that spot.
Well, look at Devin Williams. I mean, Devin Williams, he was a pretty high draft pick at one point, but he was a starter forever. And then they moved him to the bullpen because his career kind of stalled a little bit in the minors. The famous story of kind of plays around and develops the airbender during the COVID break in 2020. And I mean, that changed his entire career.
Yeah. Yeah, rookie of the year that year in that short
season. Rookie of the year, and
so.
he's been great since he's got to the majors. But if he doesn't do that, who knows? I mean, relief pitching is so I don't say fickle, but you never know. I mean, the Brewers' history is littered with 1 or 2 year wonders of relievers, and they're not alone. That's the way it is all around the place because it's just a hard thing to maintain at a high level.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks for Brandon breaking that down. All right, we got to take a quick break, and then we'll hit up some of the local stuff here. We'll talk some wrestling and some hockey and hoops and that. So we got the Carpet City Flooring Center Sports Spotlight Award as well. So we'll take our quick break, finish up the second hour, and then we've got picks coming up just past the 8 o'clock hours. We'll talk a little divisional round playoff football. Anybody willing to pick an upset this week? Hit us up with a text, tweet, or Facebook message. What are you doing with your tax return this season? Well, if you're looking for suggestions, here's one of them for you. I think it's time to use that tax return on a new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center. Chances are there's probably a floor within your home that needs an upgrade. Living room, does that your living room have all that wear and tear and even some stains from over the years? Sure, there's probably some good memories and stories attached to it, but looks awful. Kitchen floor needs an update. That's where my wife wants to get a new floor put in, or maybe even that rec room or that man cave. Whatever room needs that update in flooring, you only need to visit one place for all of your flooring needs, and that's Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. Just stop on in at Carpet City Flooring Center and take a look at all the different selections of flooring they have. If you have any questions, their team is so incredibly helpful. They'll help you answer any questions you may have. So put that tax return to good use and get that new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. All right, we got about 11 minutes to the top of the hour here. So let's catch up on some of the local stuff going on here, Mr. B. Let's start off a little bit with wrestling, because I know just the other day you had an article up about was it Chi High Wrestling?
Yes.
On there. So
yeah, last weekend was the Chi High invite at Chi High, and yeah, I had something from the day as well, but then came out, had a notebook story on Thursday led by a look at Chi sophomore Jonathan Krager, who off to a really good start to his sophomore year. Kid that won, I think, 20 matches a year ago in a full year of competition. He's already, I think, 18 wins this year.
wow.
So he's taking a nice step forward for that team, especially doing it as young as he has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are we? I think you maybe mentioned it here. Are we getting close?
We
to
are.
Kind of
We're
some
less than a
postseason?
month away. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's that first Saturday in February is a lot of conference meets.
Mhm.
So Culver Bell, Dunn St. Croix, that kind of stuff. So we're not that far away.
Yeah.
Now is kind of the the time of year where you really kind of start honing in. You hope guys are healthy and gals.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just hoping everybody's healthy and kind of ready to make that run, because if you're not there at the start of the postseason, you can't just jump in at some point. You got to be ready
Right.
to go for regionals, which
Right.
would be the week after the conference meet, and then regionals, and then sectionals, and then state.
Yeah. And then I know you also had some hockey. You had a hockey.
Yeah,
the other
Tuesday.
day
Yep,
too,
Tuesday
so.
night. I think because I didn't do anything last night because Triple County was canceled.
Man, this has been a weird winter weather
I
season.
cannot recall another year where there's been this many weather days, especially earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
It always seems like if we would get it, would be later.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's taken some getting used to, and that's made life not so great for ADs as they're scrambling to reschedule as many of these things as they can.
Yeah, trying to find those pockets in the schedule, right?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of Monday games now all of a sudden. So
hoops wise, any updates on that end, or?
I mean, it's still pretty similar from last week. Looking at the on Saturday, I was in Bloomer for an important Western Cloverville boys basketball game with McDonald beating Bloomer in overtime, and it was a great game. So right now, and then after Tuesday, McDonald and Fall Creek are tied atop the Western Cloverville. Fall Creek last week picked up a win over McDonald a week ago, 80-76. So I mean, I think those are the two teams that other teams kind of expected would be vying at the top of the conference just because they return so much. But Bloomer's been a little bit of a surprise because they had a lot of turnover. But they've got the top scorer in the county, one of the top scorers in the area, and Dominic Schwarzenberger, and then just a really good team on defense. And they're, I think they've surprised some people, but they've, year in and year out, they're very competitive the way it is. So, and that's a team doing it with a lot of juniors and some sophomores in that lineup. So, that's been kind of a pleasant surprise there for Bloomer.
Yeah. Before we, the top of the hour kind of cuts off, I wanted to make sure. So I'm just going to jump into this right now. Obviously it was about in December it was talked about, but I saw a few days ago WIAA with a proposal, modified proposal with the football conference.
I haven't gotten it. Yeah, they had the initial kind of what they're looking at as far as conference realignment goes, which would I believe start in 2024.
Yep.
And then they gave teams a chance to kind of react to it. And I haven't actually had a chance to dig in on the recent round because there's always a couple rounds of it before they kind of make the final determination.
Right. So I have it up here if you want me to. So like the Wisconsin Valley, this is
the big thing as far as like the big rivers goes would be the Eau Claire schools, Eau Claire North and Memorial, kind of basically being the extension of the Wisconsin Valley or the
Right.
it's always a little different. The names are a little different. Football, like the Valley Football Association, whatever it's called. But
Right.
basically, they'd be playing teams from the middle of the state, like Stevens Point, Wausau West, etc.
Yep. Marshfield, DC Everest, Rapids, Wausau West is on here. Then you got the big rivers, which would include Chippewa Falls, Hudson, Menominee, New Richmond, Wrights Lake, River Falls, Superior. But the thing on the bottom of it here says mandatory crossover for 7 conference games.
Yes, so they would have a game that would count every year as a conference game. And those conferences would cross over,
right?
So they would play each other.
So is that because what was one of the things the rivalry, right? Between
because you got, I mean, with that you would think, based on how that's worded, that it would only be like once every 7 years to say Chai would play Eau Claire Memorial or Chai would play Eau Claire North,
right?
Which we talked. This actually came out a week that you were gone, because I remember talking about this with Luke and Adam quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I kind of had that I guess I haven't really asked anyone that would know to get an answer on is, does that mean if you're like Chai, you can still play North Memorial anyway, like as a non-conference game? Like
like those first 2 weeks.
And I don't know. I don't want to say that that's what they're going to do, but I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud with this, because say for Chai in that given year, your crossover game is DC Everest.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have a couple open spots for non-conference games.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, could you do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
And just have it count as a regular non-conference game. But either way, I mean, it's, we're going to be, this is kind of the way it's been now for, pretty much every other year.
Right.
Since the WI did that first significant round of realignment back in 2020,
mm-hmm.
which, the idea behind it is just trying to get some uniformity, because you had conferences of different size. You had some conferences with, I think, the Clover Belt had 9 schools, but yet you had other conferences that only had like 6 schools. So it made things difficult when it came to like scheduling.
Right.
And with everything changing, especially in like A-man football, like I understand the rationale for why they're doing it. It's just now we're kind of seeing some, kind of wonky, alignments.
Yeah, I think maybe the only other one, like in our immediate area, Dunsink, Croy, and Lakeland.
Yeah, Dunsink. Yeah, well, the Lakeland, I believe, would be pretty much gone.
Yeah, because on here they would have, it says for Lakeland, Unity, Webster, Grantsburg, Cadott, Ladysmith, Chautauqua, Weyerhaeuser, and Cameron.
Yeah, and that's even just kind of an extension of the Dunsink Croy.
Yeah, and then Dunsink Croy, it looks like they would be moving in Turtle Lake, Clear Lake, and Glenwood City with Spring Valley, Elmwood, Plum City, Colfax, and Boyceville.
Well, those are a lot of the teams that are there now. I mean, not all of them are long-term Dunsink Croy teams. Some of them are pretty new, but still.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the other one as far as 11-man goes. That was significantly impacted. The Clover Belt stayed the exact same.
Right.
Which, I mean, the Clover Belt has kind of a good thing going there. So, there's and both as far as competitiveness and kind of distance and everything. So there really wasn't too much need to change that.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through some of the. I mean, there's obviously other ones in here. Yeah, it's okay. And this isn't official yet, so we're not.
No, this is still in process. WI is just being, transparent about.
Yep.
This is what it looks like right now, and they'll do it again and do it again, and then we'll know more in a few months.
Different versions or anything like that. Was there anything like big for 8-man football? I see the only one would be maybe like Flambeau would move from the Northwoods West to the Northwoods East.
Yeah, I mean, because Flambeau's kind of been stuck too, because they're not in the Lakeland, but they haven't been able to get into like the Central Wisconsin Conference, which got McDonald and Thorpe and Gilman and
mm-hmm.
New Auburn and such. So that would get them into a conference, but not too much. Like it's
North Central East, North Central West is all the same. That's with the Gilman and Cornell and Frederick and
because in the last few years there's been such an influx of, you mentioned like Cornell and like Holcomb, who co-opted an 11-man team at one point. Now they're separate. And Thorpe and Gilman moving to 8. There's just been a lot of smaller schools that have seen the benefits of doing that, moving to
8-man.
So
all right, so
it's a lot of movement, but as of right now, it's still in process.
Right, and it honestly, is this accurate saying like almost every year we're talking about realignment for football conferences?
And that's that's the way it's going to be, because there's so much that's changing. You're not really seeing it with other sports just because it's different.
Right. And these are just football conferences.
This is football only.
Yeah, not affecting any of the other ones at that point. So, does a lot of it just based off enrollment?
Yes, that's a big thing, because enrollment differences aren't in pretty much every other sport. They're not so much of a difference. Like, it can make a difference competitively, but if you're a good basketball basketball team, and you're like, example, McDonald's a good basketball team and they're a team. Like,
Mhm.
but you're a good Division 7 football team, and it's gonna be tough for you to go play, a good Division 5 or 4 team. There are examples of it. I mean, Regis won a state title last year and they beat Prescott, who was a couple divisions bigger. But that's kind of the exception, not the rule. And it's also kind of it can be also a safety issue as well. Just playing higher skilled players in a physical sport like football, like obviously things can happen.
Right.
Versus in basketball, that's really not the case.
Gotcha.
Or other sports.
So to wrap it up, what's on your schedule for tonight and this weekend? Where are you going to be going anywhere? Catching some hoops or
this weekend or tonight? My schedule, I'm still not entirely sure. I think I may be heading to Stanley for Stanley Boyd Osseo Fairchild boys basketball.
Okay.
That may change though. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I've had a couple. When I look at it, my schedule is always fluid for things.
Yeah.
It can always change, and that's my plan right now. But I mean, who knows? If something happens, that could change. But
right.
actually, tomorrow my plan is there's actually nothing I'm planning on covering tomorrow. So
okay.
But I mean, it's a rare Saturday off, and
right.
it may be my last one for a while. So
coming up here with postseason.
Yes,
time
exactly.
Such,
Once we get to into February, it'll be full steam ahead.
Right. Exactly. So. All right, big. We'll do the carpet. Do you want to do the carpet city tonight? Coming up past the 8
we can
o'clock.
Do it next hour, yep.
We'll do that because we're running out of time here. So, coming up next, we'll do our picks for the divisional round. If you want to play along with us, you can text, tweet, comment your picks for the divisional round. We'll hit that up. We got Bucks and Cavs coming up tomorrow in a big Eastern Conference matchup. Hopefully, Giannis will be ready to go for that one after. Almost about, I think it was around 10 days rest for him too. So we'll hit that up as well. We got a little cream of the crop we got to get to in the final hour too. So gonna be really crazy busy. And then I do have to ask you a couple Vikings related questions too. So Ed Donatel, in case you missed it, it's probably no big surprise, let go from his defensive coordinator spots. Maybe there are a lot of teams that are looking for coordinators.
It's going to be definitely a coach's market.
Yeah, one team that's not that maybe is upsetting Packers fans is the Packers. It seems like right now. So, but we'll kind of hit that up coming up in the next hour here as well. So yeah, that shot clock's going to cut me off here. But get your picks in. You can text it to us on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line 715-830-1912. Tweet at us, Facebook it at us. Anybody willing to pick an upset, or are you going to go all favorites in this one? All the high seeds, all the home teams. Andy Reid can join some exclusive company if he picks up another win. If the Chiefs win tomorrow, it will be his 20th postseason victory and the 10th time. 10th time Andy Reid has led his team to a conference championship game. Only Bill Belichick has more postseason wins and more conference championship game appearances. And he is definitely, according to Andy Reid, looking forward to going to Germany so he can have some brats, he said, in the international game. Doesn't surprise you. So, all right, 2 in. We got one more to go. Quick news updates, and then we'll be back with some picks after these few words. Final hour on this Friday morning coming at you. We're going to do some picks here. If you want to make your picks for divisional round weekend, you can do so. We'll get to yours. You can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or the Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Before we get to some picks, we got the Carpet City Flooring Center Local Sports Spotlights Award. Where are we shining that spotlight on this week, Brandon?
This week, we are going pretty close to Eau Claire, I would say, and that would be the Elk Mountain girls basketball team.
All right.
Currently rolling with a 14-0 record,
Nice.
top spot in the Dunsay and Croix. A couple weeks ago, picked up a big win over Colfax, who generally is kind of the gatekeeper of the top of the Dunsay and Croix. If you want to contend in that conference, you're going to have to try. You have to beat Colfax at some point, and they were able to do that. But just I think a team that the last few years has, they've been kind of ascending, and they've got a lot of players with multiple years of experience for Coach Jordan Kongshog, and they've just, it just seems like this is kind of, it's been put together for them. And, I'm sure here as we hit the second half of the season here, are going to have some big expectations. They got a game against Somerset on Saturday night, which is going to be a big test for them. Somerset, team that knocked off Cadott at the start of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a team with a really good record, plays in the middle border, a larger team. So that's going to be probably, next to maybe Colfax, that's going to be one of their toughest tests to date. So that's probably a good measuring stick for them as they, prepare to really get into that second half of the conference season and make a run, I'm sure, at, a conference championship and maybe more.
Yeah, good pick right there. All right, Elk Mountain Girls Hoops, Carpet City Flooring Center, Sports Spotlights, winner of the week. All right, time to make some divisional round picks. Brandon and I both got 2 wrong from last week. The 2 games that we got wrong was Jags and Chargers, and then Vikings Giants.
Yeah.
But again, like we were kind of talking about off there, no big surprises. I don't.
No,
think
I think those were 2 games that if you thought they kind of went the other way, people weren't necessarily too surprised.
Right. Exactly. So, maybe the only big surprise was that Chargers. But again, Chargers have had a flair for doing this.
Yes.
So, yeah. But all right, ready to make some picks now?
Yeah.
We get the Doug Peterson Andy Reid matchup. 2 Super Bowl winning coaches, mentor versus the mentee. We got Reid and Peterson, obviously, with their connection with Peterson. Obviously played under Andy Reid with Green Bay and Philly, coached under Andy Reid, then got his head coaching opportunity with Philadelphia, got a Super Bowl over there too. But if there was one game that I could see this weekend kind of being a little bit lopsided, it'd probably be this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Jaguars,
and I want the Jags.
Yeah, the Jaguars have the talent, especially on offense, to compete.
Yep.
It's just a tough. It's a tough thing to go into Arrowhead, beat this Chiefs team. Who's been firing on all cylinders since early on in the year. They've kind of figured out their running back situation a little bit, the offensive line situation. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes.
Chris Jones has been playing really well on that defensive line.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm not a big shock here. I'm going to take the Chiefs, but you're right. I think if there is a game this weekend that ends up being more lopsided than the others, this would probably have to be the favorite for that possibility.
I agree. So I'm going Chiefs in this one too. And then we get the Giants, the 6th seed, going up against their division rival, the 1-seeded Philadelphia Eagles. How do you see this one?
I think this is a game. I'm gonna pick Philly, but this is a game where I think the Giants hang around a while because they're not. The Giants aren't. They're a tough team to face because they've really kind of figured out who they are. I think Brian Daboll's done a good job of saying, "Hey, this is what we've got. This is what we have to do."
Yep.
They really overhauled their offense. Part of the way into the year, a lot more kind of shotgun stuff for Daniel Jones. We saw last week, but as we've seen all year, he can run.
Yeah.
They get Saquon Barkley involved. Their receiver core. The guy that probably everyone could name is Kenny Galladay. He didn't really play much anymore.
Right.
But they've generally done a good job of kind of not just making the plays. So long way to say I think the Giants hang around for a while, but I'll take Philly.
Yeah, I think if I had a vote, Brian Daboll would be my head coach of the year. I would say Mike Kafka would be the assistant coach. And what he's doing play calling with that offense has been fantastic. And that's sometimes we just kind of take for for granted how much a difference a coach and a coaching staff can do.
Yeah.
Because you look at this Giants team, they didn't do a whole lot in free agency.
No.
We were talking about, they're going to trade Saquon and, Daniel Jones is a bust. In comes a different philosophy and a coach. Those two guys might be getting big-time contracts now to stay with the Giants, for crying out loud. So you look at, that's why I remember a couple of years ago when the Chargers hired Brandon Staley, I thought Brian Dable would have been a perfect one, to work with Justin
in theory,
Herbert.
you think you would want to pair an offensive mind with obviously a very toolsy, talented quarterback.
Right.
And now here we are, and they're looking for a new offensive coordinator.
Right. So I agree with you. I think this is a close game. It's, they're going to be in it, but I'll be curious to see, does like Philly come out rusty at all a little bit?
Yeah, because and especially the Jalen Hurts thing.
Yeah. Because,
he missed some time near the end of the year with the injury, came back, but still, like, it wasn't quite the same. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Philly getting off to a little bit of a slow start, but ultimately, obviously, they're the better team. They're the 1 seed.
Right.
I think that it's a game where, like, the latter half of the third quarter, they kind of pull away and win by, like, 10.
I think the Giants will have a little bit of confidence because they did play the Eagles the last game, and it was close even without their starters, their main starters, and it was close. And Philly played.
And it's a division game.
Yeah,
like, it's tough to fool a division foe when you play them for a third time.
Right, and try to win 3 times in a row. So but I agree with you. I think Philly will squeak it out. I think they'll squeak it out and move on to the conference championship Sunday. I think we've got some good games coming up here. We've got the first one on tap, which will be, Bengals and Bills, and everybody knows about that game leading into it. But this one's going to be in Buffalo. So how do you see this one playing out here? And, we were kind of talking off the air. I don't know, but there's a case to be made that 3 of the AFC teams, you could say, like, you could see them being Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
And I can't, we're actually saying the Bengals.
Imagine 3 years ago saying, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are, have one of the best chances to win the Super Bowl.
Right. And they're playing really well football too. And I know it was a little close there with Baltimore and such, but
again, like we said about the whole
division teams.
Division.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you see this one playing out now? And Buffalo didn't look great against Miami.
I was going to say, because I picked Buffalo to the Super Bowl, but
again, division team. So,
but division team and all of that. I'm really tempted to take Cincinnati, just even with last week. Both teams kind of let an inferior foe kind of hang around. But I am going to take Buffalo. But this one, honestly, I think of the 4 games, this is the one I go the most back and forth on as far as who wins. So I'll take Buffalo, but if you're putting a confidence percentage on it, I'd say like 51-49, because this is a game that could very easily. I think this is almost a coin flip.
Yep. Does it make sense to say, like, so I don't, obviously Packers aren't in it. My favorite team's not in it, but would it make sense for me to say, like, I would be okay if it's either Buffalo or Cincinnati win, I
don't have a problem with
like,
either of those teams.
I would be good. Like, if either one of these teams represented the AFC in the Super Bowl, I'd have no problem with, like, hitching my wagon to one of those teams.
Yeah, and saying, what, this is the team I'm going to back. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with either of those. Those are 2 fan bases, I think, that would definitely deserve that.
Yep.
They've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would agree with that statement.
There's nothing, like, I like the coaching, I like the player. There's nothing like,
I don't like that guy, or
yep, or somebody just annoys me on there or something. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't get that feeling with either of those teams. No. Honestly, I don't really have that feeling with Kansas City either. It's just that Kansas City is much more established.
Yeah,
they've already done it.
It's one of those too. We always talk about it's because they've been on the top a lot, and it's like, oh god.
Eventually you kind of get.
But I love Andy Reid. So
yeah, you get fatigued with certain teams because they're good, but there's a reason they're good.
And look at the age of all these quarterbacks, man. I think the oldest one is Patrick Mahomes.
That old codger,
27, 28 years old, for crying out loud. Jeez Louise.
Young man's game.
It is. I'm going to go Buffalo too, but I can honestly say either team coming through this. Yeah. I think, honestly, it's in Buffalo, so that's where I give the advantage a little bit. But if it was in Cincinnati, I might pick Cincinnati then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's that close. But you look at the lines, it's not the closest game. The spread has the closest game being the Cowboys and the 49ers. And if you go to the mothership at ESPN, their matchup predictor actually favors the Cowboys in this game. That line's at 4. I know where you're going with this one, so I'll let you.
This is the game I'm actually looking forward to the most of the 4.
Can you see it going either way?
Yes, I can. I mean, Dallas coming off the game to play, and look, Tampa Bay is not a good team, but I think it was really important for Dallas to do what they did.
Right.
Especially with the way they kind of closed the regular season with that game against Washington, a game they had a lot to play for. I mean, they weren't resting people. That was top level Dak Prescott in that game. That defense is flying around again. Yeah, this is a game I can see Dallas winning. I'm going to pick San Francisco though. At this point, I think I'm just going to stop saying, well, I'm just going to wait for the wheels to fall off for Brock Purdy. Because, I mean,
I'm not.
It may not happen. But I'm going to take San Francisco, and I'm going to take San Francisco in a close one.
I know Tony Dungy has been banging this drum about teams that play Monday night and then they have to travel on Sunday, and that's why he's picking 49ers. But I go back to what happened last year. The Rams played Monday night against the Cardinals, won, then went on the road on Sunday and beat the Buccaneers to go to the NFC Championship game. So it has been done before, as much as Tony Dungy is banging this drum. That's why I'm picking it for him. I'm like, but it just happened last year where, they went, and it was like, you're going from the West Coast to the East, and this one's a little south to the West. I mean, so I don't factor that into it.
Yeah, and you're a central time zone team, so it's not.
So I don't factor that as the biggest reason why the Cowboys would lose this game. Sorry, Tony, I just don't. So I originally picked Buffalo and Dallas to go to the Super Bowl, but I thought it was going to be Dallas and Philly in this round playing each other.
That's right. Yeah, because if Minnesota won, it would have been. Which chances are then that game would have been Saturday night.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of name power in this game too, right?
There is. Like this game, kind of like the Buccaneers Cowboys game last week. This is a casual fan's dream.
Yeah, you got Micah Parsons maybe going up against Trent Williams all night.
Woo!
That's going to be a heck of a matchup there. You've got Deebo Samuel, you've got Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, George Kittle. I feel like George Kittle kind of gets forgotten about a little bit too. It's like, oh, it's Deebo, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Brandon by Ayuk the way, George Kittle's right there.
Yeah, Ayuk leads the team in receiving yards. Oh yeah, then they got that probably the second, third best tight end in the league.
Yeah,
Dan Quinn going up against his former offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons, and Kyle Shanahan calling plays over there. You got Kellen Moore calling plays against D'Amico Ryans, 2 guys that are getting head coaching interviews. And
I think I mentioned this last week, but man, can we find a way to bring back Madden Summerall for the dead to call this game?
And they got to wear their 90s uniforms.
Yep. With like the old Fox box up in the upper left corner, the minimalist one.
Yep. That little gray silver one up in the corner.
They still got the same music, so that helps. But this just screams like 93 NFC playoff.
It does.
George Haley with the gigantic neck roll coming off the edge.
Merton Hanks
with his big, his large neck doing the dance.
That weird thing over. Oh boy! And then the big, massive offensive line with the Cowboys. Just Dion playing both teams on there. So I'm gonna stick with I think this is my upset of the week. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I'm gonna go with that, but it's a close one. If they are going to let Brock Purdy have time and able to get the ball quick to his dynamic playmakers, then they're in trouble. But
they've got the pass rush to do it. It's just, can they?
And can Dan Quinn confuse this young quarterback? Can he confuse him? So would you say this is because the 49ers are on this, great winning streak? Was it 10, 11, 12, whatever the heck it's at right now? And the argument is, if you look at the 49ers schedule, a lot of people say, well, who have they played in this winning streak here? And maybe the best team that they played and won was at the beginning of that Chargers end of October, November type of one in there. I don't, you got the Dolphins in there too, but I think Tua wasn't even playing in that game, or maybe he was, or maybe he left early. I'm not quite sure. Would you say this is the toughest opponent that Brock Purdy has had to face, or this 49ers team has had to face during this stretch?
I think so.
I would agree with that. And I don't know. In my gut, I just have some weird feeling the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. I have this weird feeling that it's going to happen. So I don't know, but that's where I'm at. So I'm going with my gut in this one instead of my head. I mean, because the 49ers should win this one with their defense and their offensive skill players. They should, but there's something in my gut telling me it's not going to happen. And the Brock Purdy era is over for now.
Till the offseason, until Trey Lance get dealt to Tennessee.
You think you calling your shot
well,
right
no,
now?
Did you see apparently on social media somewhere he had because the Titans hired someone from San Francisco.
Yeah,
he had
their new
posted some fingers crossed emoji or something.
Oh, Trey Lance did?
So people are like, what does that mean?
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Intrigue.
Interesting.
So
because 49ers would have to take on a dead cap hit of that.
Yeah, because
but he's only it would be in year 3 there, but and then get ready for all the Tom Brady rumors to the 49ers.
Oh yeah.
It was like bench start cut, but I did this on Tuesday. It was more like bench start trade. How would you do that with the 49ers quarterback position with Purdy? Jimmy G's out of the conversation now, I think.
I'd
kind of throw him
for
out
me,
of there.
Honestly, I think I would just status quo.
Brock Purdy.
I would go Purdy, see what see how Lance recovers.
Yep. I just feel like if you bring in Brady for a year, I get it, but
you're already on the doorstep. Like I can understand the feeling of like, oh well, I can get him over the top. It's like I don't know. I feel like I can get over the top with what they already have though.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like this 49ers team is like your Case Keenum Vikings team from a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock. That
was a team. I mean, that was a team that had pretty much everything but a quarterback. Mm-hmm. At least
But Brock Purdy, I'd say, is playing at a high level. He's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, and that's what happened with Case Keenum. I mean, and Case Keenum also got lucky too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then they obviously they said, hey, we're just a quarterback away, and then ultimately that hasn't worked out to the level they were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think there's some comparison there.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of your Vikings now, Brandon. So the only game we got different is that NFC division game between the 49ers and Cowboys. So speaking of which, Brandon, with your Vikings at Donatel fired, who would you like to see as defensive coordinator?
I don't know. Like I was thinking about this. I'm not exactly sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's already, people with pieces out there about, who could possibly be a candidate and, for one reason or another. And I think just because obviously the connection, I think it would be cool if it was Jim Leonard. I don't know how
Mike Patton is there. That's a connection.
I think it would be a little bit disappointing if they had that with all the struggles the defense had, they just went in house.
Yeah.
Because as much as you want to say, well, it was the players and the coach, then you're saying that's an indictment on the coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of almost the same way I would feel if it was like a Vic Fangio. And I don't think it's going to be Vic Fangio. I think he's going to do something else. But because they do the same thing. But so if you're bringing in somebody else that does the exact same thing, basically what you're saying is the person that was there before is the problem.
Right.
And I do think that they need to make a move, but I'm not going to say that, the entire problem rests on Ed Donatel. Mm-hmm. The players also going to make plays too. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see turnover on that roster, especially defensively. I mean, you've got some guys that are, some veterans there that are kind of getting up there in years that, we didn't play as well as what was expected. Mm-hmm. So I just think you're going to see a fair amount of turnover there.
One of them, maybe Harrison Smith gone?
Possibly. I mean, it could be, Kirks, I think, is another one too.
Here's a big one I'll ask you. Zadarius Smith. His cap is $15.5 million.
They can,
but if they release him, it's only a dead cap of a little over $3 million.
Yeah, they can get, if they want to, they can get out of that. Mm-hmm. And I think,
and then he could be mad at you guys.
There we go, and then he can go somewhere else. He go like Chicago or something.
Chicago or Detroit,
and then then he can just hate everybody else in the NFC North. But I think a lot of it depends on what they bring in as far as the coordinator goes, because the interesting thing with this team was you have certain pieces that seem to fit better in a 4-3 and certain that were a 3-4. Like Zadarius Smith is a 3-4 edge rusher. You can move him around. You can line him up over the center.
Yep.
Danielle Hunter is a classic 4-3 defensive end. He puts his hand in the dirt, and he just goes off the edge. Yep. Like it was, and Danielle Hunter ultimately ended up having a good year, but it really took him a while to get used to some of the things they're asking,
And we've seen that from 4-3 ends that have
yeah,
to convert to a 3-4.
You think, well, I can rush the pass, you can rush the passer. Well, there's different ways you go about doing it.
Yep.
And, there were some things I didn't like about how they were utilizing Daniel Hunter. I don't think you should be dropping him in coverage. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's a massive man. He can probably take up some space in coverage, but I'd much rather have him try to get after a quarterback.
Yep.
But, Eric Kendricks had a really tough year, kind of the first really tough year he's had. And, the question was it the defense? Was it, him just, because he's in his third,
because you didn't hear his name quite a bit.
No,
this
and
year.
he really struggled in coverage. And that was the thing you could always hang your hat on with Eric Kendricks was he could really cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that really wasn't the case. They brought in Jordan Hicks for a year. He kind of struggled as well. Like, I think at least one of those inside linebackers is going to be gone.
You're right, because the Kendricks, you save almost $10 million.
Yeah, I honestly, to me, I think he's the most likely to go, and that's unfortunate. I really like Eric Kendricks, but you've got a young rookie this year in Brian Asamoah who was impressive in his limited time. I think they're ready to give, if they stick with a 3-4, especially, they're ready to give him, one of those spots, and especially in like your nickel and your dime sets. Because he's a bit of a lighter guy, a faster guy. You can really put him out there for that. But Kendricks, I think for sure.
Do you think Adam Thielen's back?
I don't know. Like that's another one because he's alone.
I'll be honest with you. Like I felt like I didn't hear his name a whole lot. Then I had to Google his stats after that game.
Yeah.
To see a season. I mean, he had over 700 yards receiving.
But really, once TJ Hawkinson got to Minnesota, TJ Hawkinson quickly became the second target. Like Kirk Cousins and him developed a rapport really quick, and TJ Hawkinson did really well when he got to Minnesota. But KJ Osborne really came on at the end of the year. Had some bigger games than Adam Thielen. I think Adam Thielen hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiving year since like 2018, and I love Adam Thielen. He's one of my favorite Vikings ever. But that's going to be a difficult decision there because
it's a good story,
It's the great Minnesota success story. Local kid goes to D2 school there, ultimately, makes the Vikings out of a tryout and becomes a great player. Like a player, one of the funner stories in that franchise's history. But if you're looking at it and you've got Justin Jefferson, you've got KJ Osborne, like. And especially because they're going to need money, like they're not in a great spot financially.
No.
So
tough decision.
Yeah, tough decision. I mean, that's.
I was gonna, I'm not even gonna ask this, but Irv Smith is not coming back.
No,
I'm surprised. I don't know if you saw his market value according to Spot Track.
I did not.
10.3 a year.
Well, someone else can do that. And it just, for him, it didn't, it just never clicked. Like, he had some injury issues. He had some drop issues. Like, look, there's a reason that we don't get TJ Hawkinson.
Right.
Like, and he's been leapfrogged. And I think it's best for everybody for him just to go get a fresh start somewhere else.
Yep, I'd agree. So both teams, both Green Bay, Minnesota.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting. You've got it's interesting because you've got those two teams who have been. I would say, those have been of the four teams in the division. Those have been the two most consistently strong ones.
Yep.
For a while. That had their significant questions, and then you have kind of the two others who are going into this offseason feel pretty good, especially the Lions knowing that Ben Johnson's coming back.
I would, I said the other day, if I was buying stock in a team, I might buy some in Detroit right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Agree.
Like they're not a laughing stock or anything anymore.
Nope.
So.
And the Bears, they
have a lot of money.
They have a lot of money, and obviously the draft cap. Now, what they do with that is another story. Remember, they traded what ultimately was the 32nd pick for Chase Claypool.
Yep.
But they have that opportunity. So there's something interesting with each of these teams this offseason.
That's it. You mentioned that too, because there was a mock draft I was looking at this morning. People need to realize there's 31 first round picks this year.
Yes.
There's not 32.
And that's the thing with the Vikings. Like their pick, I think, is like 25, but they picked 24th because they're behind the Dolphins.
So. Yeah, because the Dolphins had to give up their first pick with the tampering thing, with
the
naughty guys. So it's technically Bears kind of gave up a first round pick, for Chase Claypool. So that's how but that's, you look at some of these mocks, like there's the one on ESPN was, they like, 32, it's Philadelphia.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Come on now.
Hold on.
Guys, you're going to be up there. You got to remember.
You're going to be doing mock drafts for 4 months. You better make sure that they're right.
Exactly right. So, all right. So I did a quick Google search because I thought I saw this graphic. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the oldest quarterback in the AFC in the playoffs right now. 27.
Wow.
Josh Allen's 26. Joe Burrow's 26.
Well, look, even in the NFC too.
I think it's Dak.
I mean,
I
it's
think
gotta
it's
be
Dak. Yeah,
because the other three are still.
because Purdy's a rookie.
Purdy's a rookie.
Jalen Hurts
on-
is 2.
and they're all
3.
still on
Yeah.
the rookie contract, so they
Yeah.
can't be very old.
Yeah, it's got to be Dak then. So I would have thought, I'm like, Patrick Mahomes 27. I feel like he's been around for 10 years already, for crying out
Yeah.
loud. It almost reminds me with these three, with Patrick and Josh and Joe Burrow. Let's shout it out to the 90s and AFC quarterbacks again.
Yeah.
You know, with
Elway,
Jim
Kelly,
Kelly,
Marino.
Elway, Marino. I know different draft classes here, but still,
Yeah.
you get the idea.
Mhm.
Fun times, man. So, all right, we got to take a quick break and then do a little cream of the crop. Do a little cream of the crop. Coming up after these words. All right, we got cream of the crop coming up here in just a couple of minutes, but the first ever G-Man MVP award winner, G-Man himself, is on the phone line here this morning. How you doing, G-Man? What's up? What's on your mind?
Captain Brandon, are you guys sitting down?
I am. Brandon's standing up, but Brandon's
All
sitting
right, I'm
down.
sitting down now.
I have some very good news to tell you guys.
Oh boy, I don't even know what this is. So, what is it, G-Man?
Next Friday is January 27th, correct?
Correct. Right?
That is G-Man's last day working. 27 years on January 27th. That is the last day of work. I retire that day.
You're retiring that day, G-Man?
Fantastic.
That is congratulations, dude. Woo! I know you've been putting in a lot of hours, man. So this is congratulations to you, man. That's fantastic.
I was wondering, that Monday on my first day of retirement, can I come and be on the show with you that day?
I think you have to be the 30th. You're the MVP in the Hall of Famer. So yeah, you have to come in on the 30th.
Yes,
Do it
I'm
up.
counted. I'll be there.
Awesome. You know what? I'll even tell, because Justice is supposed to be on. I should tell him to come in studio that day.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Let's
And
do
then
it.
we could go. Let's do that the right way. The three of us all hanging out at the station.
Perfect.
I have that would be. Do you want me there? What time? You let me know and I'll be there.
Do you want to come in 7 o'clock hour?
7 o'clock hour. You know I'll be
Perfect.
there.
Attaboy. Well, that's fantastic, G-Man. Congratulations, man.
Well deserved.
You're a hard worker, and you
Yes, sir.
deserve that.
You can tell the excitement in my voice, even though you can't see me. Correct?
Oh, well,
Yes.
I could, yeah, definitely, absolutely, man. And we know that you're going to be living it up too.
Mhm.
You are going to be living up your retirement. You deserve it, man. You absolutely deserve it.
Yep, I had to tell you because it's going to happen next Friday. And then if I could be on the show Monday the 30th with you and JC, that would be so cool to spend my first day of retirement being in studio with my favorite radio station, the Chippewa Valley, your show, the Dan Kasper Show.
I love it, man. That's why you're the MVP in the Hall of Famer, sir. Congratulations, buddy. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. And then we'll talk next week, and you guys have a good weekend, okay?
You got it, buddy.
You too. Thank you.
There you go. There's the G-Man. Congratulations to G-Man retiring. Now I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I could retire. That's awesome. Good for. He has been. I know he's. He probably doesn't want me saying this, but I know he's been working a lot and putting in a lot of hours and that sort of thing. So he deserves it. He's a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations. to
Enjoy that
G-Man.
MVP lifestyle now.
Exactly. Right at the BPW bar, G-Man BPW bar. I think that's his home bar right there. So fantastic. That's awesome. So. You know what? I got a new cream of the crop. That might be my new cream of the crop right there. But we still got to play that.
Always.
Got to still play that if it's going to play for me. Come on. This computer. There we go. It's to the top. Got to do like the thing, like how would you describe that? Like
Just
the
the gesture.
pinch,
Yeah.
the gesture. That's a good one. Yeah, the gesture of that. Cream. How many of those creamers did you think he came up with in that? Was that Mean Gene? That he
Yeah.
was talking
Well,
to?
probably only one because I think Randy Savage is one of those guys that could just hit it 10 times out of 10.
I thought he had a couple at least. Like he put one on Gene's head and then he like put one in his pocket or something like that. But I don't know. That's awesome. I love that. We're gonna get those sweaters too.
Yes.
I think for Festivus, the upcoming one, you and I both will be getting a cream of the crop
Be outstanding.
sweater. So, all right, you're a cream of the crop.
My cream of the crop, Loyola Marymount men's basketball. Why Loyola Marymount men's basketball? Because last night they ended Gonzaga's 76-game home win streak.
Yes. I don't know why I'm saying yes, but I like it when streaks end apparently.
And that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
and Gonzaga has really been the bully of that conference for a while, the West Coast Conference. But you know what? Good for Loyola. Like right now, they're kind of a fringe team. This could be the type of game that they look back on at the end of the year, and that might be the difference with them maybe getting into a postseason berth. So good for the Lions.
Yeah, that's a good one. Way to pull one out of the back end.
Don't say, I'll say
and,
pull it out of the well.
Yeah, no. That's a family show.
Yeah.
So, that's a good one. Well, the honorary cream of the crop has to go to G-Man now. My other one, I was going to go Drew Holiday, cream of the crop, because that dude, his last couple games, has been carrying this Bucks team on his back with no Giannis, with no Middleton. He's been putting up over 30 points. Looking at his numbers, he needs to be an all-star. I don't think he's going to get in the all-star game, which is a travesty, because fan vote counts for 50%, and he's not even in the top for guards. Media and the other and coaches, do him a service and he has only gotten one all-star game on his record.
That's crazy.
2013.
And it's been a decade.
Yeah.
Wow.
When he was with New Orleans. So Drew Holiday.
They were still Hornets in New Orleans, I think, then.
Were they?
I don't know.
No, they were.
Were they the Birds then?
Because he was playing with Anthony Davis over there.
Mm.
Yeah,
no, because Anthony Davis was still in college then. If
not 2013.
Really?
No.
Oh.
No. Not Anthony Davis.
Well, that's Pelicans.
Yeah, Anthony Davis been around since 29. Well, okay. Well, let's just double check this, Brandon.
All right, Dan.
All right, Brandon. Okay. By the way, did you watch the new season?
Part of it.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, Anthony Davis was in his first. He was just in the league.
2013 was his rookie year.
And you know who was on that team?
Who?
Oh, that was 13-14. Never mind.
Okay.
That would have been the year after.
Davis was 12-13. So yeah.
But the year after, Wisconsin native Greg Steensma.
Yes. Played some time with the Celtics, I think. He was from Randolph, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Remember those Randolph teams back in the day?
I do. Randolph has a long history of success in basketball.
Speaking of dynasties, I was going to bring this up. I might as well do it now because we're running out of time. But so I saw Good Morning Football posted this up there. Dynasties, 60s was his Packers. 70s was the Steelers. 80s was the 49ers. 90s was the Cowboys. And they put the double O's, Patriots. And they said they're essentially making a case that, hey, Chiefs could join maybe that dynasty type of thing. But my question is, when you say Patriots, the double O's, who's the teens?
Yeah, because they kind of bookend it a little bit.
Right. Is it still Patriots?
I think so. Even though it's not 3 out of 4 or something like that.
Yeah. So who would be the dynasty of say 2010 to 2019? It was supposed to be the Packers, but that never happened. But
I'm not really sure. You could almost make a case for the Patriots again.
I think it is the Patriots, because I've got the list up here for just a refresher for people. So let's start with, if we want to start the Super Bowl year, 2010 was the 2009 season, but 10 was the Saints. Green Bay, Giants beat the Patriots, Baltimore beat the 49ers, Seattle beat Denver, Patriots beat Seattle, Denver beats Carolina, Patriots beat Atlanta, Philly beats New England. New England beats the Rams. Kansas City beats the 49ers. Tampa Bay beats Kansas City. Then you're in the 20s now at that point. But I think it is the Patriots again. So 20 years almost of a dynasty there? Or do we call it a Tom Brady dynasty? No, because the Bucks one was in 2021. So, no. Man, think about that. That's unreal. Yeah, I think it's got to be the Patriots, O's and the 10s.
I think so.
You think, if Kansas City wins the Super Bowl, would you put them in that dynasty category then? Or is it still a little too early? It'd be 3 Super Bowls and 3 Super Bowl appearances. We don't know if they'll win that third one if they get there.
I think a good case can be made.
I don't think there's another team right now in the running for that.
No.
Until the Lions come hold along. On to me now.
Hold on.
What if the Bengals go back to the Super Bowl? That'd be 2 in a row.
That'd be 2, yeah.
In the 2020s. Hey, now. And I'm not joking. I'm not trying to that's something to kind of pay attention to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a good buddy of mine once said, though, nobody likes a dynasty. Which we kind of were just talking about that with Kansas City earlier.
How they're
up there. But, man, that's... Oh, the other Vikings question I wanted to ask you, Brandon. So 13-4, but I don't think you expected them to go and win a Super Bowl this year.
At the start of the year when we talked, we said we thought they could make the playoffs, but I was thinking as a wild card team.
Right. So, but it got me wondering though too, which NFC champion, and I'm not trying to bring up bad memories for you, but I'm generally curious which like NFC championship game hurt you the most as a fan. Was it the
09.
Culpepper? Oh, it was the 09 one?
Yep.
Okay. So it wasn't the Atlanta.
No, and I think part of the reason maybe 98 didn't is because I was a little younger.
Mhm.
So I don't think I understood. Like, I mean, I was in middle school. Like, I got it, but I
Right.
don't think I quite understood the full scope of it. Like, 09, I think because in 98, I have a friend that is a Broncos fan that's convinced that the Vikings win the NFC in 98, they beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl. And
That's what
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because that Broncos team is still very good, and it was good. It was good on both sides of the ball, whereas Minnesota was, an unreal offense, and the defense had John Randall, and that was kind of about it.
Yeah.
But I think 09 just because I think that was the best overall team
Mhm.
of the group. I mean, there was good offense, good defense, good special teams.
Right.
And, losing in obviously such, they're all kind of heart-wrenching fashion. But that one, I think a little
Right.
more because, it's, you think of it's Gary Anderson missed field goal, but then they still gave up the tying touchdown. And then Denny Green opted not to try to score at the end of regulation. And then
Right.
Morton Anderson kicks field goal. Whereas in overtime, it was they're driving to possibly win the game. Obviously, we know Farr makes the interception, yada, yada, yada. So
Right.
I think 09, I would say.
Yeah. You can kick how many yards was it that Paul Allen said? 48
It was
yards?
like 50 though. It was in the 50s
Okay.
because it was on the edge of Ryan Longall's range. Like
Okay.
you try and he could make it, but it's not like it was a 27-yard field goal, which as we've seen is also certainly not a sure thing in Minnesota Vikings lore. So
Right.
but I would say that one.
I was thinking about, when I was thinking about that the other day, and maybe it kind of gets forgotten there a little bit, but like the year prior, Green Bay had lost Super Bowl 32. But then it's like the Vikings just on a dime, they were the division champs, and it's like, the Randy Moss effect.
Well, that was why that early Monday night game between the two, week 4, week 5, whatever it was so impactful because you had the Packers coming off 2 straight Super Bowl appearances, still with, all of their great players.
Yeah, Reggie's still there, Favre, MVP again, all that. Robert Brooks was healthy. So, but yeah, it was just.
And I remember, I guess not really off topic, but I remember watching the Colts Saints Super Bowl vividly because I went to a freaking hangout with a good friend of mine, and we were there. And
you were in college,
I was in college. It was my last year of college, and so we show up and. The bar was doing a thing. It's like, well, what team are you cheering for? And every time that team scored, you got like a free drink. I was cheering for the Colts because obviously I was still a little bitter and I'm still a little bitter, and I like the Colts. And my friend was cheering for the Saints. So we're there, and obviously the game goes the way it does. And long story short, I end up, imbibing quite a bit. That next morning, I think it's like 10:20. I have a class, and it's my first class of the morning. And I show up, and I don't look great. And I sit down at my desk, or at the computer desk, because it was a computer class.
Yeah.
And the teacher knew me pretty well. So he was like, wow. He goes, look kind of rough. I go, yeah. He goes, and I kind of like, well, I'm a Vikings fan. And, I kind of explained everything. He just looks at me, puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, we'll be done in about 25 minutes.
That's awesome.
So he understood.
That's awesome. Oh, that is so cool. So I remember, I was actually cheering for the Colts too because I was a Peyton Manning. I like Peyton Manning,
same here. Like like the first,
and I wanted him to get a couple because I hate the whole Super Bowl thing.
And that like Peyton Manning, I think was the first like non-Vikings jersey I ever bought myself.
Ooh,
and I still have it.
Wait a minute, Brandon.
Yeah,
you've got the first 2 picks of that 98 draft or 96 draft, Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning.
98. It's 98.
98, yeah.
Yes, I do.
How about that, man?
I do. I never thought about that, but I have a Ryan Leaf jersey and a Peyton Manning jersey.
I knew you had the Ryan Leaf one because
Justice does. And you, like everybody apparently has a Ryan Leaf jersey.
Yeah,
I remember when I got in college, I thought it was so cool because no one's gonna have this.
You got 2 other people.
And I know, now 2 other people I know have it.
We all wore it for a virtual draft.
Yes,
party,
we did.
That one. I think it was when the Chargers run a clock.
It was because I was wearing the Christian Ponder one. Otherwise,
that's so random. That is so. I still have it. So
yeah,
I'm not getting rid of that one.
No. At this point, like I don't know if I've ever really gotten rid of them. Like I've got so many like I'm never gonna wear again, but like I just have them.
Speaking of jerseys, G-Man, if you're still listening, he's got to get close to 100 yet. I think he said he knew who he was getting for his 100th.
I'll say now we've got all this extra time.
Right. Well, G-Man, I'm thinking you might need to buy a couple now. So like when you retire next week, you buy your 100th jersey on your retirement.
There you go.
And I don't know. He said he's already gotten he knows who that 100 is going to be, and he hasn't told me. So I don't know what. what it would be. I really don't know what it would be. Maybe he's getting a custom one from his playing days in Regis.
There we go.
Huh, gee, man, I'm just saying, you got people.
I'm sure they'd hook you up over there.
Yeah. I gotta get a hold of like Medford and get a football helmet from there or something. It's changed though. It's not like when I was over there. So where it just said Raiders on the. It's got the logo now. I think over there. I need some more like full size helmets.
Yeah. You need some Medford swag.
Well, just from anybody. I like football helmets, like not the plastic youth ones that we all had as kids. So, like that what I got over here.
I'm pretty sure this is what I wore in middle school, which is a very thin, like plastic. Looks like it could be used to make a drink cup. Packers one that you've got in here.
Well, it came with like your shirts and pants, and then like some shoulder pads. Did you get one of the, you can still buy them in the box.
Yeah, well, I didn't because Thorpe we weren't able to start playing till like 7th grade.
Well, no, this is like you can go to the Walmart or something and buy it.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Did you have one of those as a kid?
I don't remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Where it's like the plastic and like the white jersey with like the white pants kind of a thing.
Mine was because they didn't have names on the back, but you knew who it was with the number.
Yeah,
84. So it was Sterling Sharp.
Yes.
So, and I think at one time. I even made a nameplate, but again, I'm in elementary school. So the nameplate was paper with a green crayon glued on the back of that shirt that said Sharp in really bad handwriting.
It was not sharply written.
I had this thing, though, that I wanted a jersey. It took me a long time to be able to finally get a jersey. Like, I never was able to get one.
Well, the weird thing was, like, they used to not be super easy to find.
Catalogs. You had to order it through a catalog.
Yes.
Like, I would remember getting the catalog and, like, just going through, like, oh, I wish I could. My first jersey didn't come till I graduated 4th grade, I think. And it was a black Orlando Magic Shaq jersey.
Nice.
And I still have that one.
I'm trying to think Vikings-wise. Because I remember my dad at one point had a Jack Del Rio jersey.
Nice.
That I ended up getting. But, like, I think the first jersey Vikings jersey I ever got would have been my mom got me she's told the story to me before, but in '98 she got me a Randy Moss one, obviously his rookie year, and she like got it on Black Friday, which sounds like was an event as you can imagine. But hey,
yeah, my first Packer jersey was on clearance from Shields. I remember Robert Brooks.
Nice.
Yeah, I still have that one too. 87. I don't know why it was on clearance. Maybe he was done. I can't tell you what year
I still
it was.
wish I had, because like one of my favorite ones I had, which I'm assuming it just got old, but I got rid of it somehow, was I had a Dante Culpepper one, which I loved.
Yeah. I remember, and I know we got to take a really quick break here, but I remember like when I was a kid, like we would have like the end of the quarter, you'd have Fridays off or end of the quarter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they do it now these days. But then, like, I would always, those were like my times that I could go with my grandma or my aunt. And we'd come to Eau Claire and like just do some shopping or something like that.
Yep.
And I would always love going to Shields because they had great clearances on jerseys.
Yes.
That's how I got my Penny Hardaway one for like $10.
I think that's actually how I got my Peyton Manning one.
Yeah. It was like that. And I'm like,
well, in college too, that's what, like, I would make
I got a Steph Marbury one because of that.
I would make trips to Shields and like, oh, that's right. And just going to peruse the discount rack. That's where I ended up finding a powder blue Craig Counsell shirtsy when I was in college, which was like, I felt like the man because I'm like, how did I find this?
That's awesome.
Wish I still had that too.
I had a reversible Lakers Shaq practice jersey, a Spurs thing. I mean, that was for a kid. That's pretty sweet stuff there. So good times.
Mm-hmm.
Good times. All right, really quick break, and then we'll be back after these words. All right, we only got about a minute left because we got rambling on about
As we are wont to do.
jerseys and that sort of thing. Would you ever buy a jersey again?
I don't know.
I know your mom can't buy you one.
No,
because that's against the law.
I've thought about that, and I think I probably would, but it would be like, I mean, at this point, it would be one that like probably like if I bought a Vikings one, probably like a John Randall one, or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, if they end up inking Jefferson to a long-term extension, like that's a safe one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the promise I always made myself too is like, if somehow, some way, the Vikings ever found a way to win a Super Bowl, I would get a jersey of like whoever the quarterback was, because that back when Favre went to the Vikings, so many people were like, oh, are you going to get a Favre jersey? And I'm like, not really. Like, I mean, I was still very honest. I'm like, I don't really like Brett Favre, but I mean, I go, if he wins a Super Bowl, I will. That was always kind of the caveat. Like,
well, then you gave them the kiss of death.
I guess I did. but otherwise, I don't know. Like, for like the Brewers, I don't know. Like,
would you get like a Robin Yount throwback?
I have one.
Okay.
So I've got that. And I'm also, when it comes to the Brewers, I'm also of the mind, like, I have a bunch of old jerseys I just wear anyway. Like, if I'm going to a game, I'll wear a Jeff Jenkins jersey. I
feel like for baseball, that's more acceptable because players move so much.
Yeah, like, I've got a Carlos Villanueva jersey I still got that I will wear. Like, if I found a way to find like a Derek Turnbow Brewers like jersey, I would wear that all the time.
I feel like
I have a friend that has a Rob Deere one that he wears.
When I go to a game, I don't know if you do the same, but like I always look for the most random jersey
100%.
Somebody's wearing out there.
100%.
Like, how the heck?
Like an Antoine, I remember seeing like a Mark Newfield jersey or like an Antoine Williamson, which those are like former prospects in the '90s that didn't work out.
I think still the best one is Travis Jervey. Really quick. So my buddy was like, I don't know if he really likes him or just always said he liked him. Water Street. We were in college. Somebody was wearing a Travis Jervey jersey. He bought it off that guy's back, and that's the only jersey he wears to Packers games now.
Awesome.
No Tiger included.